Hello everyone. If you like this audiobook and want to listen to more, please consider subscribing. And if you like this video, like it as well, that it enjoy.
Beneath the crimson dusk, what's wrong, Sako-senpai? Yuki noticed the change in her expression. Normally cool and poised, Seiko's gaze had softened, like something within her had quietly stirred. Nothing, I just feel like you've been too kind to me, Yuki-kun. I don't even know how I'm supposed to repay you. Her voice was gentle, tinged with vulnerability. Slowly, she stepped toward him, inch by inch closing the space between them. As she moved, she casually reached for the livestream feed and shut it off without a word, cutting off the group chat in mid-conversation. The screen went black. Now it was just the two of them. Under the fading light of the sun, they stood within breath's reach of each other, no more than 5 centimeters apart. The silence between them pulsed. Seiko reached out tentatively, her fingertips brushing Yuki's chest, then trailing slowly up to his cheek. Her touch was featherlight, almost reverent. She wasn't being bold, this was a quiet test, a probe to see if she was welcome in his space. Her violet eyes flickered, watching every twitch in his face. Yuki gently caught her hand. "What are you talking about, senpai?" he said softly, his voice warm but calm. "Aren't we friends?" He smiled, and his thumb lightly brushed over the back of her hand. Despite her years of wielding blades, her skin was so soft, velvety smooth and tender, untouched by the roughness one might expect of a swordswoman. "Besides," he added, "didn't you already thank me with those points?" Seiko shook her head slowly. "That's not enough," she whispered. "Compared to what you've done for me, Yuki-kun, it's not even close." She leaned forward, resting gently against his chest. His arms didn't pull away. He didn't flinch. That subtle reassurance made her heart race. "Hey, can I tell you a story?" He nodded. She then quietly shared the same story she once told Takashi Kimuro, a story about the dark cravings that had always lived within her. The bloodlust, the thrill she felt when killing, the part of her that frightened even herself. "So even if I'm broken like this," she looked up, searching his eyes with quiet desperation, "would you still accept me?" Her voice trembled slightly as she asked. It wasn't just a question, it was a plea. For understanding, for connection. Yuki took a breath, then another. His gaze didn't waver. "Of course, I don't think you're broken at all. In fact, I think this side of you is beautiful." He reached up, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "You're like a rose blooming in the middle of a battlefield." At that, Seiko could no longer hold back. She leaned in and pressed her lips to his. The kiss started soft, tentative, testing, unsure. But as he returned it, her control cracked. Her hands rose to cup his face. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. Their lips moved in rhythm, deep, warm, consuming. The kiss didn't last a few seconds. It lasted nearly 10 minutes. By the time they finally broke apart, Seiko's entire face was flushed a brilliant red. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, heart hammering as she leaned in and whispered into his ear. "I just got wet." Yuki blinked. His gaze instinctively dropped downward. Then he cleared his throat and looked away with a small, awkward cough. "Ahem, we should probably head back. If we stay out too long, the others might worry." "I'll stay over tonight." Seiko's cheeks burned brighter, but her eyes sparkled as she nodded, barely able to hide her smile. Wrapped in Yuki's arms again, they returned to the villa, soaring silently through the dimming sky. The moment they touched down, Seiko scurried inside, barely sparing a glance at Rei or the others as she bolted toward the bathroom. "Huh, that's weird." Rei tilted her head. "What's with Sako-senpai?" Meanwhile, the ever-oblivious Shizuka wandered over, blinking slowly at Yuki's slightly damp shirt. Yuki-kun, did you go swimming or something?" Saya and the others also noticed the strange dark patches on his clothes. None of them commented, but the question lingered in their glances. Yuki casually rubbed the back of his neck and laughed it off. "Got splashed by a fire hydrant." But inwardly, he thought, women really are made of water. With a simple thought, the moisture on his clothes vanished, dried instantly by his system. Then he sat down on the couch, perfectly composed, as if nothing had happened. Opening his system panel, he checked the intimacy points. 5,612. Not bad at all. The corner of his lips lifted slightly. He was already wondering just how many points tonight would bring. Then he opened the group chat. The moment he did, it was chaos. Everyone was spamming mentions at him and Seiko. "Artemis, why'd you shut off the stream? What were you two doing?" "Saidenshi." "Seiko, Yuki-kun, you better say something. Waiju. At nearly omnipotent at sword demon. Raiden A. I'm not trying to gossip, but, at nearly omnipotent at sword demon. Yuki. Relax, the stream just cut out by accident. And anyway, the mission was over, pretty normal to end a broadcast, right? Saidenshi. Nope, something's fishy. Waiju. Definitely. Artemis. Even the way you address her changed. Raiden A. Very suspicious. Squinting eyes. Yuki groaned inwardly. Are all these girls detectives or something? Just as he was about to type, Seiko joined the chat. Seiko. I was just expressing my gratitude to Yuki-kun and having a private conversation. Nothing for others to see, so I turned off the stream. Smiles. Saidenshi. Aha, suspicious. Waiju. Exactly, you've known us for longer, Seiko. Why hide it from us? Frowning emoji. Saidenshi. So what happened? Spill it, Artemis. Wah, my Yuki-kun, sobbing. Raiden A. Agreed, I want details, now, impatient emoji. Seiko. Just, what a woman should do. Smiles. The chat exploded. That single line hit like a nuclear bomb. Women from different worlds felt a chill ripple through them. In Azuma, Narukami Island, inside the Ye publishing house, Raiden A turned to Ye Miko. Miko, if you had to seduce a man, what are your odds of success? Huh, Miko blinked, staring blankly for a few seconds before slowly turning toward A like she'd just heard the most absurd thing in the world. Back in the villa, Yuki sighed heavily. He facepalmed. We didn't even do anything, yet. But with how Seiko worded it, how could he possibly explain himself without making it worse? He stayed silent. Later that evening, dinner was peaceful. Seiko's cooking, as always, was exceptional. Everyone was full in content. Soon after, Saya and the others fell asleep one by one, drained from the day. Shizuka, predictably, got tipsy after only 2 beers. Seiko had to carry her to bed. Once Shizuka was tucked in, Seiko returned, her voice soft. Yuki-kun, wait in the next room. I'll shower first. He nodded, knowing what that meant. This was a big night, for her, and maybe for them both. Some time later, the door creaked open. Seiko stepped in, her hair still damp, steam rising faintly from her skin. She wore nothing but a loosely tied bathrobe, the thin fabric barely clinging to her curves. Her skin glowed, dewy and warm. Her cheeks were flushed with a soft, nervous blush. Her eyes shimmered, full of anticipation, vulnerability, and quiet affection. She walked slowly toward him, every movement intentional but unforced. No regrets. Her voice was quiet. Yuki looked at her, really looked. Seiko's beauty had always been fierce and elegant, like a blade unsheathed. But tonight, she was something else. Gentle, open, devoted. He gave her a slow nod. She smiled. I'll be in your care from now on. That was all it took. And under the dim, golden light of the room, the once reserved Seiko showed him exactly what it meant to give herself completely. 3 comments 0 vote. Morning after desires. The morning after. Rin Yuki stirred from sleep, his body slowly waking to the sensation of something soft and warm pressing down on him. His eyes blinked open, adjusting to the gentle morning light spilling through the window, and the first thing he saw was golden hair, scattered like spilled sunlight across the pillow beside him. Shizuka, her bare back peeked out from the tangled sheets, smooth and inviting. One leg draped over his, her chest softly rising and falling with each breath. Her body pressed close, one arm loosely curled across his chest. Yuki let out a soft laugh under his breath. What a sight to wake up to. Careful not to wake her, he gently slipped out from under her arm and slid off the bed. The memory of how she'd ended up here flashed clearly in his mind, vivid and unfiltered. Flashback. The night before had started innocently enough, or at least, as innocent as things ever were these days. Yuki had been alone with Seiko, the graceful, composed swordswoman with the heart of a true Yamato Nadeshiko. Their night together had been sensual and quiet, filled with long kisses and whispered words, her body responding to his every touch with loving devotion. She had offered herself completely, submitting in the most respectful, beautiful way, letting Yuki do as he pleased while moaning softly beneath him. Then the door had creaked open. Yuki, a familiar, slurred voice echoed in, followed by unsteady footsteps. Shizuka, drunk, red-faced, and swaying slightly in the doorway, looked at the two tangled on the bed and tilted her head. Ooh, looks like I'm late to the party. Yuki sat up, half covered, blinking in surprise. Shizuka, what are you? Don't mind me, she giggled, stumbling in with a crooked grin. I just came to cuddle, unless you've got room for one more. Seiko glanced toward her, expression serene as always, but the curve of her lips showed interest, not rejection. Yuki hesitated. Shizuka was clearly tipsy. Would she even remember this in the morning? But the answer came fast. Shizuka dropped her clothes without shame, her voluptuous figure revealed in full as she crawled onto the bed, breasts swinging lightly with each move. She pounced on him like a cat in heat. What followed was chaotic and heated. Seiko didn't back away. She joined in with silent understanding, letting Shizuka take the lead while she supported. The three of them tangled in a dance of limbs and moans, breath hot, touches hungry. Yuki kissed one while fingering the other, switching between them as their cries filled the room. Shizuka was loud and needy, clinging to him, riding his thigh while Seiko leaned down to kiss him, breasts pressing together. Their bodies intertwined as if they'd always belonged in his arms. And when Shizuka sobered up, she was even worse, or better, depending on how you saw it. She demanded more, begged for more. I want to feel you again, Yuki-kun, don't hold back. By the time they were done, hours had passed. And now here she was, curled up next to him like a satisfied kitten. Points well earned. Yuki opened his interface and pulled up the night's reward log. Ding. Interaction with Seiko, intimacy points, plus 1000. Ding. Interaction with Seiko, intimacy points, plus 5000. Ding. Interaction with Shizuka, intimacy points, plus 3000. Ding. Interaction with Shizuka, intimacy points, plus 5000. Total intimacy points, 815,205. He grinned. That single night had rocketed him past the 100,000 point mark. And with that, the heart of the universe was closer than ever, an evolution that would elevate his powers far beyond current limits. Yuki padded into the living room. The sun filtered softly through the curtains. Only Seiko was awake, already at the stove, preparing breakfast. Her long violet hair was tied up in a loose bun, strands falling over her shoulder as she focused on the sizzling pan. Good morning, Yuki, she greeted, turning to him with a warm, glowing smile. Morning, senpai, he answered, but his voice caught halfway. His eyes widened. Seiko's outfit, or lack thereof, made his heart skip a beat. Beneath her short, purple apron, she was wearing nothing except a thin, lacy set of lingerie. Bare shoulders, long, smooth legs, the soft curves of her body barely restrained by silk and lace. It was not what one typically wore to cook eggs. Yuki almost choked. Seiko, are the others still asleep? She nodded with calm amusement. They were probably worn out after everything. He nodded, eyes still glued to her. Too much on display, he thought. But about your clothes, she looked over her shoulder innocently. Does my husband not like it? He walked to her, slid his arms around her bare waist, and leaned in to kiss her neck. I do like it, a lot, actually, he murmured. His hand ran up her side, fingers brushing her inner thighs. She trembled slightly in his arms. But maybe save this look for when it's just the two of us, he added. If other guys were around. I understand, she said immediately, turning to face him fully. I belong to you, Yuki. Always. She smiled, touching her forehead to his. And that goes for the others too, Shizuka-sensei, Rei, Saya, they'll belong to you as well. Yuki raised an eyebrow. That's bold of you. It's not about boldness. It's about vision, she said. Last night, Seiko had laid out her plan. She would stay in this world, build a core team of strong, beautiful women, and offer them to Yuki, not as pawns, but as partners in survival and pleasure. She would lead, choose who was worthy, and bring them in. All for him. Yuki had been stunned, but he didn't argue. He'd already spent 10,000 points setting a spatial anchor in this world. That meant he could now travel between dimensions freely, and bring others with him. He kissed her again. You really are the best wife I could ask for, my lovely senpai. She giggled, cheeks pink. They tried to cook together after that, but his hands kept wandering. Whenever she reached for salt or flipped a pan, he was behind her, kissing her neck, fingering her pussy, pulling at her apron. Her soft gasps filled the kitchen. Cooking took over an hour, and even then, half the food ended up slightly burned. After the meal, Saya Takagi approached him quietly. Can I talk to you alone? Yuki followed her into a side room. I want to ask you for something, she began, fidgeting. My parents, I want them here, with me. Yuki leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Wouldn't it make more sense to go back to them? Your father is influential, they're probably doing just fine. Saya hesitated. That's true, but I don't want to be away from you. Yuki smirked. You trust me that much? She nodded, cheeks flushing. I'll do anything. Please, Yuki. He was about to state his price when she cut him off. I know, I'll give you what you want. In one motion, Saya pulled down her blouse. Her shoulders bared, then her bra slipped off, and her breasts bounced free. She stood proudly, trembling but determined, her face bright red. I'm not as good as the others, but I'll learn. I'll be yours too. Yuki watched her silently, then reached for her chin. You're sure? I want this, she whispered. 1 hour later. Their bodies had intertwined for nearly an hour, Saya gasping beneath him, clinging to him like he was her last hope. And in many ways, he was. Now, Yuki stood atop a tall rooftop far from the hideout, staring down at a grand estate. Inside, a woman stood at the window of the second floor. Her hair flowed like silk, long, lavender, elegant. Her face was sharp, refined. Her figure was mature, full of grace and sensuality. Her violet eyes locked onto him across the distance. Who is that man? 2 comments 0 vote. The man who appeared in the dark. The woman's name was Yuriko Takagi. She used to be the lady of this grand estate, the wife of its powerful owner, Suichiro Takagi. But everything changed just yesterday. The apocalypse had struck without warning. Chaos spread like wildfire. People screamed, cities burned, and the dead began to walk again. In that madness, the Takagi family didn't fall apart. Instead, they pulled together. Suichiro, being the head of the region's biggest right-wing political group, managed to take control quickly. He turned their estate into a temporary shelter. He brought in survivors, armed guards, and stockpiled supplies. Everything seemed under control. But then, just one zombie got through. No one saw it coming. No one noticed it slip in. It was already too late. Suichiro was bitten. In this new world, even a single bite was a death sentence. There was no cure, no chance. Once bitten, you were already gone, just waiting to die and come back as one of them. Suichiro knew it too. He didn't panic. He simply called Yuriko, handed everything over to her, and ended his life with a single, clean shot. Just like that, Yuriko was left in charge. The estate, the shelter, the survivors, it was all her responsibility now. At first, things held together. The number of survivors was small, the estate well fortified. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. Some of the men who had once followed Suichiro's orders without question, started watching Yuriko with greedy eyes. They saw her not as their leader, but as a woman suddenly left vulnerable. They smelled blood. Yuriko knew it, she felt it in every lingering stare, in every quiet conversation that stopped when she entered the room. Last night, she locked herself in her room and kept a loaded pistol on the nightstand. She survived the night, but the weight of it all was unbearable. If it wasn't for one reason, her missing daughter, Saya Takagi, she would have run away already. She would have let these vultures fight over what remained of her husband's legacy. But she couldn't leave, not until she found Saya. Then, just moments ago, she walked up to the window and saw someone. A figure, standing on the rooftop across from hers. Her breath caught in her throat. At first, she thought it was one of the troublemakers trying to sneak into her room. But this figure was different. Even from a distance, even in the shadows, she could tell, he was handsome. Striking, almost unreal. And just as quickly as she spotted him, he vanished. Was I imagining things? She whispered to herself. She turned around, and gasped. Someone was standing inside her room. Who are you? Yuriko cried out. She lunged toward the nightstand for her gun, but her hand grabbed nothing. Looking for this, said a smooth, almost teasing voice. The stranger was holding her revolver in one hand, turning it over like it was a toy. Yuriko's heart dropped. She was defenseless, but she didn't panic. She was no stranger to danger. Her hands curled into fists. Her eyes narrowed. Who are you? Why are you here? She demanded. The man smiled, calm and unbothered. Great questions. He flicked his wrist, and her gun dissolved into sand right before her eyes. It spilled from his palm onto the carpet. My name is Rin Yuki, he said. And my reason for being here is you, Yuriko Takagi. That smile, it was almost too perfect. His face was flawless, his aura overwhelming. He carried himself like someone who had never feared anything in his life. Yuriko couldn't look away. For a single heartbeat, she forgot to breathe. Then reality crashed back in. She glanced down at the sand where her gun had been. What the hell had she just seen? That was real, wasn't it? Fear crawled up her spine for the first time in years. You, what do you want from me? I don't even know you. Yuriko's voice was cold and firm, but the way her shoulders tensed betrayed her fear. Yuki's smile didn't fade. You don't know me, but I know you. He took a slow step closer. His tone dropped to something quieter, almost intimate. Tell me, Yuriko, do you want to survive? Do you want to leave this place behind? He closed the distance between them with ease, his eyes drinking in every detail of her. She straightened, refusing to let him see her flinch. This shelter is safe, she said, trying to sound convincing. But deep down, she knew the truth. The figure on the rooftop, it had been him. He moved like a shadow, appearing and disappearing like something out of a nightmare. Or a dream. She'd seen creatures like him in fiction, inhumanly fast, impossibly graceful. But this wasn't a story. He was real, and if he existed, what else did this new world now hold? Yuki chuckled. It was soft, knowing. You can lie to yourself, he whispered, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear, but not to me. His touch was gentle, but there was a dangerous edge beneath it. I see the wolves. I hear the whispers. The men planning to take everything from you. Do you really think they'll let a widow hold power for much longer? He leaned close. She could feel his breath on her skin. No allies, no protection, just you, and a house full of men who want to own you. Yuriko clenched her jaw. He was right. She didn't want to admit it, but he was absolutely right. And then, he said the words that truly broke her. You're only still here because you're looking for Saya, aren't you? What if I told you, I could reunite you with her? Yuriko's eyes widened. You know where Saya is. Yuki simply nodded, calm and sure. Without thinking, Yuriko stepped forward and grabbed his hands. Please, she whispered, her voice trembling. If you can help me, I'll go with you. I'll do anything. Her sincerity caught even Yuki off guard. You really take this mother thing seriously, don't you? He said with a quiet laugh. Yuriko gave a small, bitter smile. I have to. I made a promise. The truth was, Saya wasn't her real daughter. She was her sister's. Saya's birth mother had died shortly after giving birth. On her deathbed, she'd looked at Yuriko with tearful eyes and begged her to raise the child as her own. And so Yuriko did. She gave Saya the best life she could. But while she played the role of a devoted wife to Suichiro, they had never once shared a real marriage bed. In fact, Yuriko had never been with any man. Suichiro, though powerful, had been deeply wounded just before his wife's death. An injury during one of his missions had taken away any chance of intimacy. After that, he buried himself in work and politics. Yuriko, meanwhile, remained untouched. A quiet sigh escaped her lips as she looked up at Yuki again. And then, without planning to, she asked him the question she'd been holding back. If you're really helping me, what do you want in return? I'll do anything, if it's within my power. Just name it. Her cheeks flushed. The meaning behind her words hung in the air like a slow, heavy fog. Yuki's smile turned wicked. He stepped closer, voice soft and teasing. Oh, anything. Yes, it was barely a whisper. Her body was shaking, not with fear anymore, but with something deeper. Yuki didn't ask twice. He wasn't the type to play coy. His hands wrapped around her waist with effortless ease. And in the very next second, the two of them vanished from the estate, leaving nothing behind but silence. 3 comments 0 vote. Reunion of mother and daughter. 2 hours later, under the blazing midday sun. Rin Yuki and Yuriko appeared just outside Rika Minami's house, tucked away on the quieter edge of the city ruins. Yuriko clung to Yuki's arm, flushed and flustered, her expression stuck somewhere between overwhelming relief and burning embarrassment. Quick, smell me again. Do I still reek of it? She asked in a harsh whisper, nudging him with urgency. Yuki sighed and rubbed his temples, trying not to laugh. You've asked me that 5 times. And whose fault is that, Yuriko snapped, her cheeks blazing red. You went completely overboard. How could I not reek? I emptied half a bottle of 5-star hotel shower gel and I still don't feel clean. Yuki couldn't help it. He laughed, deep and shameless. After escaping the Takagi estate, He'd brought her straight to Shirozuka City's last untouched luxury hotel. The building had stood like a lonely tower among a graveyard of smoke and ruin. He booked the penthouse suite, floor-to-ceiling one-way glass walls offering a view of the city's collapse. And there, while screams echoed in the distance and helicopters buzzed low over firelit streets, they had used every inch of that suite. The private sauna, the infinity pool, the sleek marble counters, the massive bed that could have fit 5, the glass that fogged up under her bare back as he pressed her against it, while the apocalypse raged behind her like a live mural. Yuriko, polished, composed, once a Wall Street wolf in heels, had fallen apart gloriously. She moaned herself hoarse against the windows, dug her nails into his back in the steam room, cried out his name in the pool when he lifted her legs onto his shoulders, thrusting into her as water sloshed over the edge. No more pretense, no more restraint. The world was ending, and she had let go. She'd begged to taste him, and taste she did, with lips that didn't care for etiquette or pride. Now, walking under the sun like nothing had happened, Yuriko felt like she was still glowing, and she hated how obvious it felt. Yuki smirked, voice low and amused. "Oh, weren't you the one who begged to taste it?" Yuriko nearly tripped. Her mind instantly replayed it, the scene, the sounds, the mess. The way she'd dropped to her knees, looked up at him with that raw hunger, and begged to feed on him like it was her last meal. God, post-climax clarity was a cruel mistress. All those wild, filthy things she'd done now played in her mind like a shameful highlight reel. But honestly, she didn't care. He'd seen her, torn her down, shattered her composure, owned every inch of her in every way a man could. There was no hiding anymore. "What's wrong with wanting both mouths fed?" She shot back defiantly, a smug little tilt to her lips. Yuki paused mid-step, then smirked. In response, he reached down and gave her ass a sharp, deliberate pinch. "Enough chatter," he said, pushing open the door to Minami's safe house. "If Saya sees you like this, her little brain might melt." Yuriko pouted, eyes narrowed. "Saya, this, Saya, that, you talk like you've known her forever." As she followed him inside, she muttered under her breath, "I knew it. This bastard's already gobbled up that girl. Pretending to help me find my daughter, ha. Meanwhile, he's had her for dessert. And now he's moved on to the mother. Disgusting." Not that she actually minded. Hell, Lin Yue was her only anchor now. He was arrogant, smug, and a damn womanizer, but he was good at it. Too good. "I can hear you, you know," came Yuki's dry voice from ahead. Yuriko yelped, scurrying to smooth her wrinkled clothes as she caught up. Just then, around the corner, "Mom," a familiar voice cracked the air, and Saya Takagi burst into view. She didn't wait a second. Saya threw herself forward, tears rushing down her cheeks, and Yuriko rushed to meet her with arms wide open. They collided with a hug that almost knocked Yuriko off her feet. The air turned thick with emotion as they held each other tight. Behind them, Shizuka, Rei, and Seiko watched silently, each touched in their own way. Yuki leaned against a nearby wall, arms folded, eyes soft. The mother and daughter clung to one another, rocking slowly. After minutes of quiet sobs and whispered apologies, Saya finally leaned back. "Mom, why do you smell so good?" Yuriko froze. Just for a split second, her brain blanked out. Then, professional mode. Years on Wall Street hadn't been for nothing. "Oh, that," she said, voice sweet and casual. "Probably the hotel shampoo. After running around dodging zombies all day, I was a filthy mess. Had to scrub myself half to death last night. Guess I overdid it," she added with a nervous laugh. Saya nodded, no suspicion in her eyes. "Yeah, it's a shame we don't have good stuff like that anymore." Yuriko chuckled, silently thanking every god she never believed in. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, old memories, funny survival stories, hopes for what came next. For a while, things almost felt normal again. Meanwhile, outside in the garden, Seiko walked beside Yuki, holding onto his arm. The breeze carried the faint scent of blood and ash, but neither of them seemed to notice. "So," Yuki said casually, "you're thinking of making this your base?" Seiko nodded, fingers brushing the hilts of her twin blades. "I'm ready. I've grown stronger. I want to train here, protect everyone, and keep getting better." Zombies were perfect practice dummies, after all. Her blade had to be sharper than ever. Yuki smiled. "I like it, but remember, Blade Phantom is only the beginning." Seiko blinked. "There's more. There's Nightblade." Then Shadow Monarch, he explained, his eyes glowing faintly with golden light. And beyond that, Transcendent, Blade Phantom. Somewhere, in another universe, a dungeon and fighter player wept quietly for the nostalgia. Seiko's breath hitched. I felt it, like there's more inside me, just waiting to be unlocked. I could do it now, Yuki said calmly, raising one hand. Full endgame build. Skip the grind. Seiko stared at him, wide-eyed. You really can. Yuki just smirked. Senpai, it's time. Snap. A sharp click echoed through the garden. Suddenly, Seiko's body lit up with surging energy. Techniques, skills, and forms she'd never even imagined filled her mind. Her aura erupted, roaring like a storm. The sheer pressure of it cracked the ground beneath her feet. Boom! The explosion of power would have shattered the house, if not for Yuki's invisible shield compressing the blast into silence. Inside, everyone flinched as the walls shook, but it passed quickly, and they went back to their conversations. Seiko looked at her hands. Single quote. Planet level. She wasn't exaggerating. She could solo the entire world now. The only threats left were nukes. That reminded Yuki, there had been hints in the original timeline of a nuclear strike wiping out everything. But the story never confirmed it. This time, he wasn't leaving it up to fate. With a simple thought, Yuki erased every nuclear warhead on Earth. And then, as casually as brushing away dust, he waved toward the sky, an invisible barrier forming around the house, protecting it from any future fallout. Seiko stared at him, eyes wide with awe and something deeper. He wasn't just a man to her now. He was the one who had reshaped her path, changed her future, and lit a fire inside her soul. He was her impossible miracle. Her light in a world swallowed by shadows. 4 comments 0 vote. After the storm, a glimmer of fire. After returning to the house, Rin Yuki explained everything he had done while Seiko listened carefully. He told her how he had eliminated the threat of nuclear bombs and placed a powerful energy barrier around the house. This barrier wasn't just for show, it completely isolated the house from the rest of the world. No sound, no movement from within could be detected outside. It was like the house existed in a separate pocket of space. Even if the world outside was torn apart by nuclear explosions, EMP blasts, or anything else, the house would stay untouched and safe inside that invisible bubble. To outsiders, it would just look like a boring, regular house on the street. But Seiko and the others, who were inside, could sense the truth. The house had a unique power, it warped how others saw it, like bending reality itself. They could also still observe the outside world from within, staying informed and aware even while hidden. But survival wasn't just about protection. They needed energy too, electricity, power, things to keep them going. It had only been 2 days since the apocalypse started, so the city still had electricity. But Saya Takagi, ever the realist, estimated it wouldn't be long before the power plants failed. Maybe a week at most. Once the grid collapsed, total darkness would follow. When Saya brought this up, Yuki didn't even flinch. With the girls watching him in awe, he casually crafted, by hand, a small device. It didn't look like much at first, just a tiny machine that gave off a faint, warm glow. But it was a universal, infinite energy generator. It made nuclear fusion look like a battery-powered flashlight. Antimatter energy couldn't even compare. This machine defied science itself, generating limitless power without needing any kind of input. It broke the laws of physics with ease, spitting in the face of energy conservation like they were meaningless ideas. Saya, who had spent years studying science, was completely shaken. Her mind couldn't keep up. Her worldview cracked apart as she stared, stunned into silence. Afterward, Yuki reached into his memory and created something even more unbelievable, a black, sleek mask that pulsed with eerie power. Shadow Army Mask. Complete, he announced. With it, the wearer could summon 9 entire legions of the Shadow Corps at will. That alone changed everything. With those forces behind them, Seiko and the others could carve their way through the chaos of the apocalypse far more easily. He didn't stop there. Yuki handed each girl a set of armor, gear made from advanced, celestial-level tech. It looked sleek, elegant, and otherworldly, yet lightweight and strong. The kind of protection only gods might wear. Once everything was finished, Yuki stepped back, his part done for now. He gave them a nod, said his farewells, and returned to his own world. Miyamoto Rei stood quietly, watching him disappear. Her lips parted. She wanted to speak, to say something, but the moment slipped away. Her hand trembled slightly, then dropped back to her side. She looked down at the floor, frustrated with herself, quietly scolding her own hesitation. Why couldn't she just speak up? Seiko walked over silently and placed a gentle hand on Rei's shoulder. Don't worry, she said softly. Yuki, he'll return whenever he wants. You'll have other chances. That little reassurance was all Rei needed. She looked up, eyes shining faintly with hope, and nodded. When Yuki arrived back in his own world, he glanced at the clock. Only about 2 hours had passed here. That confirmed what the dimensional travel card promised. It slowed down time in his home world while he was away. After tidying up his room, Yuki laid down on his bed. It was still night here. What else was there to do but get some sleep? As he settled in, he instinctively pulled up the chat group on his phone. It had become a habit, just like before the world went crazy, when he'd scroll through messages before bed. But tonight, the chat was buzzing. Everyone was talking about Seiko and what she had gained. Raiden. Seiko hit the jackpot this time. Saidenshi. Right, that mid-tier lottery draw alone is incredible. Waiju. Plus the fate-altering points she got afterward. I swear, if I had those, I'd boost my strength 5 times over. After Yuki saved Yuriko Takagi and stopped the nuke threat, both he and Seiko received fate-altering rewards. Artemis. Now Seiko's power's close to mine. I'm so jealous. Seiko. Hee, no need to be. Your turn will come soon. Raiden. She's even stronger than me now. Let's spar sometime, Seiko. Saidenshi. PFF'd. She's got 9,000 points and I'm still the only mortal here, cries. Waiju. Don't cry, Saidenshi. I'll send you some cultivation manuals. Yuki. That won't work. First, she can't read them. Second, her world has no spiritual energy to absorb. Artemis. Yuki's here. Mwah. Kisses for Yuki. The moment he joined, Artemis dropped her usual goddess-like pride and turned into a love-struck fangirl, flooding the chat with kisses. Everyone else groaned. Seiko. Yuki, you're back. Are you safe? What time is it over there? Her gentle message stood out, a graceful, soft tone. She was truly a Yamato Nadeshiko, caring and composed. Raiden. Yuki, now. On a first-name basis, are we? Artemis. Confirmed. Something's totally going on between them. Saidenshi. Wait, if what Yuki says is true, then I really am stuck as a mortal forever, that's kinda depressing. Waiju. Sorry, Saidenshi. I tried. Saidenshi. It's okay. I'll just keep doing daily logins. I've got 250 points. At 500, I'll try an enhancement. Yuki. Better to save for a lottery draw. That's what worked for Seiko. Saidenshi. That'll take forever. Yuki. Not necessarily. Aren't you investigating the Gastria virus right now? Yuki. That might trigger a fate-altering quest. Easy points. Saidenshi. You're right, but, if I do get into trouble, Yuki, you have to come save me, okay? Pleading face. Yuki. Deal. He agreed without hesitation. He'd get rewards for helping anyway, and honestly, he wanted to visit her world at some point. Tokyo Administrative District, Government Office. Far away, in another world, a snow-haired girl sat at her desk. She blinked, then suddenly her whole face lit up. The Empress of Tokyo, just 16 years old, had never expected Yuki to say yes. She had half-joked when she asked him to save her if she ever needed it. But now, he agreed. Her heart beat faster. He said yes, she whispered, stunned. Even though she ruled a city, she was still a teenager. Part of her longed for something more than just paperwork and responsibility. And right now, her heart felt light and warm. She stood up and twirled happily in her office, spinning like a dancer across the floor. She reached the tall windows and gazed out. Massive black monoliths stood in the distance, towering over the city, protecting them from the monstrous Gastria. But her smile faded a little. She remembered what Yuki had told her about anomalies in her country. And the more she investigated, the more she realized he was right. There were strange things buried in Japan's past. Old, heavily classified research programs, no names, no known locations, no records. And the Gastria virus, it wasn't natural, it was a failed result of some secret experiment. That truth weighed on her shoulders. She clenched her fists, the pressure of her duty crushing down again. Just then, the door opened. An old man with snow-white hair and deep wrinkles stepped in, leaning on a cane. He moved slowly, but with rigid control. She saw him and immediately composed herself. "You've worked hard, Chief Advisor Tendo." Her voice was calm and formal. The old man didn't reply right away. He placed a file on her desk, then stared at her with eyes that seemed to see through everything. "Your Excellency," he said slowly, "there are some things in this world that should never be disturbed. Leave them be, and they'll remain harmless. But if you poke at them..." He trailed off, turned, and walked out. The moment the door clicked shut, the Empress's hands trembled, just slightly, before she clenched them into fists. 2 comments 0 vote, Isaac and Elliot, Data Live World. Timeline. 30 years ago. It had been 2 weeks since Lin Yue arrived in the secluded Magus village, nestled far from the mundane world's chaos. And in that short time, he had already woven his way into the hearts of the sisters, Ellen and Karen. From the start, their interactions had been cautious, formal. The sisters were wary, especially Ellen, with her sharp instincts, and Karen, always quiet and unreadable. But Yuki had patience, charm, and a way of teasing that felt gentle yet thrilling. Every day, during training, meals, or even casual conversations, he flirted with subtle confidence, pushing boundaries just enough to spark their interest without crossing any lines too quickly. Over time, what had been careful distance faded into familiarity. Then, into something far more intimate. By now, they were completely at ease around him. Ellen, in particular, had become boldly comfortable. She had no hesitation whatsoever when Yuki asked to take her body measurements for new equipment. In fact, that morning, she'd stripped right in front of him, without a blush or second thought. Noon, that same day. After lunch, both sisters stepped into the courtyard, now clad in the new CRUNIT battle gear Yuki had built for them. The suits were nothing like the ones they'd worn before. These weren't skimpy or incomplete. No, these were sleek, stunning, and high-tech, inspired by the mecha anime Yuki remembered from Earth. Their bodies were fully encased in metallic armor that shimmered like silver moonlight. The retractable helmets and glowing energy cores gave them an edge of raw power and elegance. Yuki had also embedded each suit with a matter-to-energy converter, the same one that powered Seiko's barrier system. A drop of magical energy was all it needed to produce an explosive tenfold power boost. Naturally, Ellen was in love with it. A total battle maniac, she had been dragging Karen into daily sparring sessions, ignoring her sister's lack of enthusiasm. Karen only ever joined for one reason, and it wasn't combat. On the open field, dust kicked up as Ellen rocketed across the air, twin thrusters on her back glowing crimson. "Take this, Karen." She raised both arms. Her twin light wings split, twisting into cannon shapes. Magical energy surged into them with a loud hum. Rongominiad, double shot, a blinding twin lance of energy shot out, roaring through the sky toward Karen. Karen barely flinched. Her own wings snapped forward, forming a 4-layered energy barrier. ZTTT. The blast struck with thunderous force but were absorbed, scattered harmlessly across the shield. Karen stood still, unaffected. Then, too slow, Karen, a blur. Ellen was behind her, sword drawn, the glowing blade resting right against her neck. "I surrender, sister," Karen said flatly, not even turning her head. "Huh, that's it," Ellen shouted. "Come on, fight me for real." But Karen had already powered down her CRUNIT. The armor melted away like liquid metal, returning to the bracelet on her wrist. Without a word, she walked calmly over to where Yuki was sitting, observing the match with quiet amusement. And without hesitation, without even looking at him, she sat directly on his lap. Her body molded against him naturally, and she leaned her back into his chest, eyes closed, sighing softly. "Tired? Want a massage?" Yuki asked, grinning knowingly. Karen gave a quiet hum and nodded. The tiniest smile curved her lips. For her, this was the only reason she endured sparring at all. Ellen could chase strength and titles, Karen just wanted this. Warmth. Yuki's hands. Yuki didn't disappoint. His hands moved gently over her shoulders, pressing into the tense muscles there, then slowly gliding down her spine, working out the tightness from training. Karen relaxed completely, her breathing soft and rhythmic, eyes fluttering shut as his fingers moved lower. She melted under his touch, tilting her head to the side as his thumbs worked around her waist and lower back. Watching from a distance, Ellen puffed out her cheeks. "Not fair, me too," she cried, shutting down her own CRUNIT with a stomp. She stormed over, armor vanishing into her bracelet. But instead of pushing Karen off, she simply dropped next to Yuki and pouted like a child. Yuki chuckled, patting the space beside him. All right, you're next. Ellen nodded eagerly, sliding close so their legs touched. She watched Karen lean against Yuki, then leaned in herself, her expression somewhere between irritated and flustered. Just then, the white training room shimmered and faded, returning to their familiar home's interior. The illusion collapsed, and the cool, dim light of the living space returned. But outside that quiet home, something stirred. The peaceful Magus village rumbled as two massive armored vehicles rolled up to its outer edge. Their green steel frames gleamed in the sunlight, and their treads churned the dirt, leaving deep marks in the ground. People came out of their homes, peeking from windows and rooftops, watching in wary silence. They recognized the shape, the sound. Military hardware. Not magical, but from the mundane world. Whispers ran through the crowd. Tension crackled in the air. Some magi even began summoning magical energy, preparing to repel the intruders if needed. Then the vehicle doors opened. Two men stepped out. They looked related, both with sharp silver hair, eyes cold but calculating. The younger one was striking, confident, and smirking. The older had glasses and a more reserved aura, but his calm demeanor couldn't mask the sheer presence he carried. The village chief arrived quickly, rushing toward them, but stopped short, eyes wide. Isaac, Elliot, the older man nodded with a gentle smile. Yes, Chief, it's been a while. The chief looked stunned. For a moment, he relaxed. But then his eyes moved to the armored convoy, soldiers disembarking, weapons in hand. The relief turned to confusion. If it's really you two, then what's with all this? Before he could finish, two more figures stepped from the vehicles. Unlike the others, they radiated authority, high-ranking military men, in formal uniforms, with officers at their flanks. Isaac gestured grandly. Chief, allow me to introduce our partners. These are Generals Andrew and Blitz, from the Britannia Empire. The chief's expression stiffened slightly. Generals were no small matter, not even for Magi. Still, he extended his hand, offering a formal welcome. The two generals responded politely, with firm shakes and cool smiles. With the usual pleasantries exchanged, the group was escorted into the chief's residence. Outside, soldiers remained with the vehicles, guarding them diligently. Today marked only the second time in memory that outsiders had set foot in the Magus village. The first had been Yuki. But he was one of them, in a sense, tied to their world through mystery and magic. These men were different, mundane, military. Curiosity exploded through the village. Children ran toward the armored vehicles in excitement. They had never seen such machines up close. Guns, armor, engines, it was all new to them. At first, they just stared. Then they crept closer. Soon, they were crowding around the soldiers, pointing at rifles and radios, asking questions. To everyone's surprise, the soldiers didn't drive them away. They knelt, smiled, answered questions. One even let a curious kid peek through his scope. 2 comments 0 vote, invitation from the outside, at the chief's house. The village chief poured steaming tea into ceramic cups, serving it to the 2 returning magi, Elliot and Isaac, and their foreign guests. Once everyone was seated around the low table, conversation flowed easily. The room was filled with laughter as Elliot and Isaac took turns sharing stories about their time in the outside world. They spoke of how amazed they'd been by the sheer variety of food, towering architecture, and the massive scale of modern cities. At first, adjusting had been rough. Finding jobs proved difficult, one dead end after another. But eventually, Isaac spotted a gap in the chaos brought by war. Weapons, gear, the arms industry. It wasn't just profitable, it also gave them access to high-level officials in non-magical governments. As magi, their skills weren't limited to spells. Alchemy came just as naturally to them as breathing. Their original combat gear had been built through that knowledge. But when Isaac saw the precision and power of modern manufacturing, an idea took shape. What if they combined alchemy with industrial tech? The result was something entirely new, a combat system designed not only for traditional magi, but even for ordinary humans trained to use it. Isaac named it the CRUNIT. It was more than a better version of Mystic Codes. It opened doors for artificial magi, people without magical bloodlines, using tech to do what only magi once could. Once Isaac introduced the concept publicly, it caught international attention. Governments reached out, investors lined up, and after he demonstrated just what a true magus could do with the right enhancements, nations began to take him seriously. The 2 Britannia generals sitting with them now were a result of that success. Their military had already started negotiating cooperation. But this visit wasn't just about pride or reunion. Isaac and Elliot had returned with a request to recruit strong magi from the village's instructors for the artificial magus program. The village chief listened quietly, though unease settled in his chest like a stone. He regretted letting the two leave the village all those years ago. Among magi, a key rule had always been clear: never expose mystery to the uninitiated. Yet here were Isaac and Elliot, not only exposing it, but turning it into technology for outsiders. Worse still, they had brought those very outsiders to the village gates. Once secrecy was broken, it could never be fully repaired. The chief saw it clearly. The boys were ambitious, and perhaps even brilliant, but also naive. They didn't see the danger. Or maybe, they refused to. Keeping his tone measured, the chief asked, "Do you already have candidates in mind?" The two exchanged glances, then smiled. "We do," Isaac said. He leaned back, smug. The strongest magus in the world, Lin Yue. Even though he'd expected it, the chief flinched slightly. Across the table, both generals' eyes lit up, their interest suddenly razor-sharp. One of them leaned forward. "Mr. Isaac, you called her the strongest magus in the world. Just who is this woman?" The other added, "Yes, you've been teasing us the entire trip. Surely, now you can give us details." Isaac grinned, casually swirling his tea. "Patience, gentlemen. Some legends are better experienced than explained." At Yuki's house, Yuki had sensed the unfamiliar presence the moment those vehicles rolled into the village. When he brought it up to the sisters, Ellen just waved it off. "So what?" she muttered, lazily leaning against Yuki's left shoulder. "This is a magus village. It's not like they can cause any trouble." Karen, resting comfortably on his right, adjusted her glasses with a quiet sigh. "That's careless, sister. It's been decades since anyone from the outside world stepped foot here. This isn't a casual visit." "But Yuki's an outsider too," Ellen said, defensively, then quickly added, "Well, he doesn't count. He's different." Before the conversation could continue, a loud knock interrupted them. Bang, bang, bang. "TCH, who now?" Ellen groaned, dragging herself upright. "I'll get it," Karen said, brushing past her sister. She opened the door. Outside stood the village chief, two vaguely familiar men, and two complete strangers. Karen's eyes narrowed slightly. "And who are these two?" The chief gave a gentle smile. "Isaac and Elliot. You've heard of them, surely." Recognition flickered across her face. "Ah, come in, then." Her tone was polite, but her sharp eyes didn't hide her suspicion. As the group stepped inside, Isaac and Elliot's eyes immediately landed on Yuki. And their confident expressions cracked. Isaac, long known as the most handsome man in the village, froze in silent disbelief. The man before him, perfectly sculpted features, an unshakable calm in his eyes. His presence radiated a grace that felt almost unreal. TN. This author is in love with mixed beauty, bro never misses any chance loudly crying loudly crying. Worse still was the way Ellen sat curled around Yuki's arm, her usual edge dulled into something soft and affectionate. Elliot cleared his throat and forced a polite smile. "It's been a long time, Ellen. You've changed." Ellen flashed a grin, snuggling closer to Yuki. "Oh, jealous." The air thickened. The tension wasn't just awkward, it was heavy, almost territorial. Before things could escalate, the village chief stepped forward. "We're here on urgent business. The world outside has extended an invitation." Yuki's fingers twitched slightly, barely noticeable. Trouble had arrived. The contrast couldn't have been more extreme. Ellen Mathers, the relentless, unmatched magus who once leveled training fields, now looked like a purring cat draped across a man no one could place. But neither Isaac nor Elliot said a word about it. Under the chief's direction, everyone made introductions. Names were exchanged politely. The generals greeted Yuki, intrigued but reserved. Yuki offered only a faint, unreadable smile. So these were the ones. After weeks in the village, Yuki had finally met two of the central players in the Day-Day Live world's spiral into destruction. Isaac, the would-be tyrant who wrapped his thirst for power in fancy words like justice. Elliot, the fool who'd abandon all reason for a pretty face and a whisper of love. In the original timeline, these two, and Ellen, had been the ones responsible for summoning Neo, the spirit of origin. That choice had shattered the world. Isaac called it revenge against mankind. Yuki knew better. Isaac didn't want justice, he wanted control. Power. Domination. As for Elliot, Yuki's gaze drifted to him briefly, amused. Ah yes, the tragic idiot, the man who'd throw away his own cause the moment Mio looked at him with those eyes. Who'd claim to protect spirits, out of principle, but in truth, just wanted to be loved. Isaac caught the look Yuki gave him and frowned. Have we met before? Yuki chuckled, one hand slowly stroking Ellen's soft hair. Not in this lifetime. The words hung in the air, a riddle wrapped in threat. 2 comments 0 vote, rejected. After the village chief finished explaining everything, Ellen was quickly told what Isaac and the others wanted from her. But before they could even finish laying it out, she gave them a firm, cold answer. No, she didn't even need to think about it. Ellen wasn't interested in becoming a teacher to train humans into artificial mages. That meant nothing to her. All she wanted was to stay by Rin Yuki's side. Simple as that. When she shut them down so bluntly, the 2 Britannian generals exchanged a quick, almost unnoticeable look. Isaac and Elliot couldn't hide their disappointment. They had hoped she'd say yes. Ellen wasn't just strong, she was the strongest person in the entire village, without question. If someone like her personally trained the new generation of artificial mages, they would have become an unstoppable force. Now that dream was crushed. But Isaac wasn't ready to give up yet. Desperate to change her mind, he leaned in with a grin, as if offering her a golden ticket. Ellen, we've developed something new, a high-tech piece of gear called the CRUNIT, he said eagerly. It's way more powerful than the older models. And with your skill level, wearing one would make you nearly invincible. He looked her straight in the eyes. If you agree to become an instructor for our company, you can pick any CRUNIT you like. Isaac really thought that would tempt her. He was offering the best of what they had, gear that could turn a fighter into a walking army. But Ellen didn't even bother to look at him. No need, she said flatly. I already have the best. She turned her head slightly, eyes softening just a little as they landed on Rin Yuki, who stood not far behind her. Isaac froze. She had dismissed everything he offered like it was worthless. With nothing left to say, he gave a stiff nod. Very well, we'll respect your decision. Isaac, the generals, and Elliot turned to leave. But as they walked off, Isaac turned back for one last glance, only to see Rin Yuki already watching him. Yuki didn't speak, he didn't even move, he just smiled faintly. That smile wasn't friendly, it was calm, but cold. It made Isaac's skin crawl. It felt like Yuki was looking right through him. Like he knew everything, and worse, like he didn't even care enough to be bothered by it. Isaac looked away quickly, the back of his neck prickling as unease settled deep in his gut. As they walked through the village streets, Isaac stayed quiet, brooding. He was sure Ellen's rejection had everything to do with that man, Rin Yuki. There was something unnatural about him. Even though Yuki didn't say a word, his presence was overwhelming. It was like walking beside a sleeping predator, you didn't want to look too long or move too suddenly. Isaac felt like if he stared into those calm eyes for even a second longer, all his secrets would be laid bare. On the way back, Isaac and Elliot walked with the village chief for a while, eventually saying their goodbyes. The chief warned them gently, reminding them of the dangers of getting too close to outsiders. But neither of the men paid it much attention. Elliot, however, looked genuinely troubled. If Ellen's not doing it, then who's going to train the artificial mages? He asked. Their entire plan was already set in motion, create a company that produced advanced weapons and trained artificial mages to act as high-level mercenaries for hire. But not just any mercenaries. These would be elite soldiers equipped with CRUNITs, superhuman warriors. Isaac just grinned and slapped Elliot on the back. No worries, if we don't have Ellen, we still have you. Me. Elliot blinked in surprise. You want me to be the instructor? Exactly, Isaac nodded. You might not be on Ellen's level, but your skills are good enough. Elliot sighed in resignation. Well, guess I don't have a choice, huh? They parted ways with the village chief and caught up with the generals near the village outskirts. There, they noticed something strange. Their soldiers had gathered near a group of mage children, barely 5 years old, yet already conjuring bursts of magic that shattered tree trunks like they were made of paper. The generals narrowed their eyes at the sight. They didn't speak, but wordlessly, they nodded to each other and quietly pulled out their miniature recording devices. Click. They filmed everything in silence, children wielding enough power to level buildings if they wished. Once done, they slipped the cameras away and walked back to their armored vehicles, faces cold and unreadable. A day passes. Isaac and Elliot left the village with the Britannian team. Back in the village, when Rin Yue heard they were gone, his mind was already working. He knew the world wouldn't leave them alone now. The moment the outside world realized magic was real, and learned the exact location of a village full of mages, there would be fear. And when people fear what they don't understand, they destroy it. Yuki had seen it all before. That was why the mage ancestors had hidden themselves away in the first place. But men like Isaac and Elliot didn't understand. Their ambition made them reckless. In their rush to make something great, they had invited danger right to the village's doorstep. It was only a matter of time now. 2 days later, Rin Yue went to the village chief. "We need to move them," he said simply. The chief was startled. "Move them? But where? We don't have a place." "That's not a problem." Yuki already had a solution in mind. He found a small island deep in the Nordic region. Isolated, hard to reach, but full of natural resources and easy enough to supply with outside shipments. Perfect for survival. Then, with nothing more than a snap of his fingers, everything changed. The entire village was gone from the forest. Instantly, every person, home, and belonging was relocated to the island. The homes were already rebuilt there, identical to the old ones. The villagers just had to carry their things inside. It all happened in a blink. But Yuki didn't stay. Neither did Ellen or her sister. The three of them left together, returning to the outside world. 1 week later, London, Britannia. In a luxury villa nestled in one of London's richest neighborhoods, Rin Yue reclined on a lounge chair in the sunlight, staring at his phone. He was chatting in a private group. "Raiden, my luck's amazing today. I got 100 points from the daily check-in. Waiju, Lady Raiden, you're unstoppable. Seiko, true, but Yuki-kun still wins every time. Smile. Artemis, this system is rigged. How does he always get full points? Yuki, don't worry, Artemis. Maybe you'll get lucky next time. Artemis, you always say the sweetest things, Yuki, moi. Raiden, okay, Artemis is acting weird. Seiko, agreed, she's showing emotions, human ones. What happened? Artemis, it's Yuki, of course. Serious face. Artemis, just kidding, maybe it's from observing humans so much. They keep talking about this thing called love. Yuki, then congratulations, Artemis. Sounds like you've learned what a heart is. Artemis, hee, it's all thanks to you, Yuki. Without you, I wouldn't understand any of it. That's why I'll always love you. Raiden, you're so cheesy. Waiju, but it's romantic. Seiko, I feel the same, Lady Artemis, smile. Rin Yue let out a soft laugh at Artemis' overly affectionate message. Her words were sweet, and maybe a little childish, but it was real emotion. He leaned back in the reclining chair, eyes closed, soaking in the warm sun on his skin. The villa was quiet, peaceful. Click. The study door creaked open behind him. Footsteps, quick, sharp, urgent. 2 figures rushed inside. 2 comments, 0 vote. Bombed. Yuki, something terrible has happened. The door slammed open, and the first thing Rin Yue heard was Ellen's panicked voice shouting his name. Sister, seriously, Karen, who came in right behind, sighed at her sister's dramatic entrance. But she didn't waste any time. She followed Ellen quickly out to the balcony connected to Yuki's study. Something definitely happened, she added, voice tense. Yuki watched the 2 sisters rush in, clearly shaken. Without saying a word, he calmly patted the 2 empty seats beside him on the lounge chair, silently telling them to sit and explain properly. Seeing his relaxed gesture, both sisters didn't hesitate. They plopped down on either side of him, Ellen on the left and Karen on the right, pressing in close to him like he was the meat in a sandwich. Ellen practically glued herself to Yuki, half her body molded against his. Karen, though more composed, simply wrapped her arm around his and leaned into him softly. This really is serious, Karen said, nodding. Her eyes flicked up to look at Yuki's strikingly handsome face. Even now, there was a slight dreamy sparkle in her eyes, just the sight of him made her heart skip a beat. Just like you predicted, the old magician village has been bombed, she said grimly. The scene was horrifying. Every house, every building, completely destroyed. It's like the entire village was erased. There's not even a trace left. She took a breath, trying to steady herself. But the anger in her voice was barely hidden. When Karen stopped, Ellen picked up where she left off. We checked the surveillance footage, she said through clenched teeth. It wasn't a regular strike, it was carpet bombing. They hit it over and over, like they wanted to make sure absolutely nothing was left. They wanted to wipe everything out. Erase the whole village. Both sisters' voices were sharp with fury. But even with all this rage, there was also a heavy weight of sorrow. Thanks to Yuki's warning, the magicians living there had already evacuated before the attack. No one died. But that didn't make it any less infuriating. Ordinary countries, non-magical nations, had dared to raise their hands against magician territory. That alone was unforgivable. Of course, the true enemies were Isaac and Elliot, the traitors who had exposed the existence of magicians to the world. If it weren't for them, this never would have happened. Ellen and Karen hated them more than anyone. But it was because of Yuki that this wasn't a tragedy. He had warned them ahead of time, guided the villagers to safety, and helped relocate them. Thanks to him, their people survived. And that only deepened the sisters' admiration for him, along with something more intense. Yuki, however, remained perfectly still. His expression didn't change. He had already expected this outcome. So, the magician village was gone. That meant Isaac and Elliot would find out soon, if they hadn't already. And once they did, they'd begin their revenge. They'd make their move. They'd try to summon her, Mio. A small smirk appeared on Yuki's lips, cold and unreadable. Good, he thought to himself. Let them do the hard work. I'll step in at the end, and take everything. Meanwhile, in a high-tech lab in London, England. This was the headquarters of DEM, the company that Isaac and Elliot had created. The moment it launched, DEM skyrocketed in popularity. Nations lined up to buy their products, and the money flowed in. They used that money to fuel their research, because being a magician was expensive, and their experiments burned through funds like wildfire. But all that effort had paid off. Together, Isaac and Elliot had created something groundbreaking, the Realizer. A device that could take digital simulations and bring them into the real world, essentially turning science into magic. Even normal people, non-magicians, could now use magical abilities through this tech. Once this hit the global market, it caused a worldwide frenzy. Nations fought for contracts. DEM became richer than anyone had imagined. And now, their science magic was spreading like wildfire across the globe. But just as they were planning their next move, the worst possible news hit them. The magician village, their homeland, was gone. In the main meeting room, Elliot stared at the photos in front of him. His hands were shaking, and his eyes were wide with disbelief. Beside him, Isaac looked surprised, but calm. Far too calm. Isaac, what the hell is this? Elliot shouted, jumping to his feet. Do you know who did this? His voice trembled with rage. His eyes were red, not from tears, but from sheer, violent anger. That village, that land, those were their people. And now, they were all gone. How could they just bomb it over and over like that? Elliot roared. He slammed his fists on the table, bang, 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 and the heavy wooden surface cracked under the force of his blows. Deep dents formed where his hands hit. Isaac finally spoke, his voice low and cold. Calm down, Elliot. Calm down, Elliot shouted back. Our people are dead, our entire race was wiped out. And you're telling me to calm down. Of course I'm angry too. Isaac snapped back. His voice didn't rise, but there was ice in it. I'm a magician, just like you. You think I don't feel the same pain. But if we lose our heads now, we lose everything. Elliot stood there breathing hard for a few seconds, then slowly, reluctantly, nodded. You're right, he said through clenched teeth. So what's the plan? He dropped back into his seat, his eyes locked on Isaac. Isaac didn't answer immediately. He walked toward the tall windows overlooking London. From up here, on the 23rd floor, people on the street looked like tiny insects. When those governments came to us, trying to force us into that treaty, Isaac began, they weren't offering peace. They wanted control. They wanted to cage us like wild animals. We said no, and that made them afraid. And when wolves find a tiger at their door, they don't sleep peacefully. They attack first, because they're scared it'll rip them apart. Isaac turned around. There was a smile on his face now, a twisted, sharp grin. We are the tiger, Elliot. And those humans, they're the wolves. And when wolves attack a tiger, the smile faded into something more vicious. The tiger doesn't just snarl, it hunts. We're going to make them regret this. We're going to make them suffer. There was venom in every word he spoke, like the idea of revenge was something sacred. Elliot said nothing, but his fists clenched hard. His heart had already made its decision. "I'll prepare everything," he muttered. Without waiting for a reply, he stormed out of the room. Isaac watched him go. Slowly, a dark smile crept back onto his face, one full of ambition, hunger, and cruel delight. His eyes glinted with a strange fire. "Now, it begins," he whispered. "Soon, the world will be mine to claim." Isaac had seen this future coming long ago. He knew that magicians, just by existing, would throw the world into chaos. He had wanted that to happen. He had nurtured it. Because deep down inside, Isaac had always been waiting for the right moment, for the perfect spark to light the fire. And now, that spark had finally come. Now, nothing would stop him from unleashing the dream he'd hidden inside him for years. The dream to reshape the world into one ruled by him. 3 comments 0 vote. Kabbalah's power. 3 days had passed since the magician village was completely destroyed. During that time, Lin Yue had been quietly observing Isaac and Elliot's movements. He kept a close eye on them, watching and waiting for any sign of action. Early that morning, Yuki walked out of his room alone. Lately, he had been spending almost every night in Seiko's world, a pocket dimension where he was always greeted with warmth and pleasure. Life there was comfortable, even luxurious, especially for a world overrun by zombies. It didn't feel like an apocalypse at all inside Minami Rika's home. That world was more like a relaxing sanctuary now. Seiko occasionally left to take care of nearby zombies, rescue girls she found promising, and gather supplies. But food wasn't really a problem. Thanks to the chat group, everyone received enough daily rations from other members. The real scavenging Seiko did was for something else entirely. Clothes. Outfits of every kind. Tight, glossy sets that boosted attack speed. Delicate lace lingerie. Seductive uniforms, some looking like they were made just for dirty roleplay. Seiko would return home with full bags of them, stuffing closets full. And that was the real reason Yuki visited every single night. Inside that world, Seiko, Shizuka, and the Takagi, mother-daughter, duo, Yuriko and Saya, willingly modeled the outfits for Yuki's private enjoyment. Every night became a teasing show. The women posed and moved in ways designed to catch his eyes and stir his desires. Some nights ended in whispered moans and tangled sheets, where the outfits served only as foreplay before being tossed aside on the floor. It became a game they all enjoyed, showing off, tempting him, giving in. Meanwhile, Seiko also used her time outside to help others. Through her efforts, she managed to save Miyamoto Rei's mother, Mariko Miyamoto, Minami Rika, and a police officer named Nikauka Mami. Rei was incredibly grateful, especially for getting her mother back. But then came a shocking truth that turned Rei's world upside down. After an emotional talk, Mariko confessed something she had hidden for years. She wasn't Rei's real mother. She was actually Rei's aunt, her mother's younger sister. Rei's real mother had died giving birth to her, and since Mariko had never married, she took Rei in and raised her as her own child. Rei's father had taken Mariko's surname after marriage, which is why Rei carried the Miyamoto name. This news shattered Rei's sense of identity. She fell into a quiet crisis, questioning who she really was. So why had Mariko chosen to tell the truth now? Because Takagi Yuriko had accidentally caused everything to unravel. One night, Saya caught Yuriko moaning Yuki's name loudly during a private moment. Yes, caught in the act of pleasuring herself. Saya was shocked and demanded an explanation. That's when Yuriko admitted the truth. She and Saya weren't mother and daughter. Mariko, after hearing about Yuriko's confession, decided she couldn't keep her own secret any longer. Now, both Rei and Saya found themselves lost in the same revelation, that their so-called mothers weren't their real mothers at all. They bonded over it, misery loves company, and the two girls became close friends, joking that they were now sisters in confusion. All the while, Seiko, Shizuka, and Rika could only sigh. Everything had become so complicated. Meanwhile, at the breakfast table, Yuki was having breakfast with Ellen and Karen while scrolling through the chat group. Artemis. Yay, I finally hit 50 check-in points today. Raiden. Congrats, I got 100. Seiko. Yuki-kun, are you awake? Did you eat yet? Even though they'd only parted a few hours ago, Seiko still sent him a warm, caring message. She was the perfect image of a traditional, loyal woman, sweet, gentle, and always thinking about him. Yuki. All good, eating now, make sure you eat too, don't skip meals. Seiko. Hee hee, we will. Though Shizuka-sensei probably doesn't need breakfast, she already ate earlier. Waiju. Huh, ate, is that some kind of code? Raiden. That sounds very suggestive. Artemis. What does suggestive mean? There was no secret about Yuki leaving spatial anchors in Seiko's world. Everyone in the chat knew by now that he came and went as he pleased. Seiko. Ma, just smile and nod. Artemis. By the way, Setaichi hasn't said anything for days. Raiden. Yeah, she checks in but stays totally silent. Waiju. Did something go wrong with her investigation? Seiko. I doubt it. Even if it did, Yuki-kun could easily rescue her. Yuki. No signs of danger. She's probably just busy. Still, something about Emperor Setaichi's silence made Yuki uneasy. But as long as her check-ins continued, it meant she was alive. He let it go for now. Then suddenly, he felt it. A flicker of energy brushed against his senses. It was weak but there. Yuki's eyes sharpened. His head turned quickly toward the source of the ripple. So, you're finally making a move, huh? A thin smirk crossed his face. He could feel Isaac and Elliot in motion. He stood up, placing his half-eaten breakfast down. Go ahead and finish eating. I need to go. Before either Ellen or Karen could reply, his body disappeared in a flash, vanishing into thin air. Seriously. Ellen slammed her hands on the table, annoyed. He always runs off before I can even ask anything. Karen, always calm and soft-spoken, just let out a quiet sigh. Yuki must have his reasons, sister. We shouldn't interfere. MMPH. Ellen pouted but had no real argument. She huffed and crossed her arms. Fine, but still, what's so important that he has to dash off without a word? She tapped her chin, clearly curious. I don't know, Karen said softly. But it must be serious. Wow, super helpful, Ellen muttered with a roll of her eyes. Elsewhere, far away on the Eurasian steppe, a massive open grassland stretched out in every direction, flat and endless. No trees, no hills, just tall green grass waving under the wide blue sky. Right in the middle of this lonely expanse, two figures stood beside a strange machine. Isaac, dressed in a sleek, perfectly tailored suit, stood tall and calm. Beside him, Elliot had rolled up his sleeves and was busy adjusting the strange device's dials. Isaac, Elliot said, glancing at him. Are you really sure this power can make humanity pay? His voice held doubt, but also hope. Isaac didn't answer right away. He simply turned and stared at Elliot, eyes sharp like knives. Elliot, he replied coolly. You, of all people, should understand the true scale of the Kabbalah's power, or are you doubting it now? Of course not, Elliot snapped, stung by the suggestion. The Kabbalah is the highest form of magical study, the divine system that connects us to the gods. It's the peak of our life's work. Its power is unmatched, supreme. Isaac gave a faint smile. He turned back to the machine, his hands expertly moving across its surface, guiding magic into its core. And today, we're going to reach through that sacred connection. His eyes lit up with wild intensity. This time, we'll make contact with the divine realm itself. Elliot inhaled deeply, his pulse racing. Then, silently, he stepped forward and joined Isaac, pouring his own magic into the machine. Boom! A giant surge of power exploded outward. A brilliant beam of light shot up into the sky, piercing the clouds, splitting heaven itself. 2 comments 0 vote. Mio. Look, Elliot, this is it, the moment we've worked for. The spirit art, we're about to change the entire world of magic. A revolution like no other. The point where God and man connect. This is the beginning. Isaac's voice trembled with excitement as he stared up at the massive pillar of light shooting into the sky. Magical energy swirled violently, roaring like a living creature. His hands shook, and his expression was a mixture of awe and madness, completely consumed by what he'd helped create. Beside him, Elliot tried to stay calm, but his heartbeat raced. His eyes flicked nervously toward the massive column of light, unsure what they were really summoning. No one knew what existed on the other side of that glowing storm. Not even Isaac, who had orchestrated the ritual, could say for certain if they had truly reached a god. For all they knew, they could have summoned a demon king instead. As both men watched the shining vortex, reality itself suddenly bent. Time stopped, the clouds above froze, the grass stopped moving, the wind vanished, even the buzzing of energy went silent. Across the universe, planets, stars, galaxies, everything came to a halt. And in that absolute stillness, Rin Yuki appeared. He stepped into the world with a relaxed smile, hands in his coat pockets. He glanced at the two magicians, now frozen in their moment of triumph. "Ah, perfect," he muttered. "Letting them do all the hard work really saves me the trouble." He walked closer to the glowing pillar, eyes filled with casual amusement. "Thanks for the effort, gentlemen. I'll be taking Mio home now. No need to thank me." Because Ellen hadn't interfered this time, the magician village hadn't been wiped out. And thanks to that, enough energy had finally been collected to complete this spirit art. Isaac and Elliot alone could never have powered this ritual. They had drained spiritual energy straight from nature itself, pulling raw power from the oceans, skies, and earth. Energy that would have taken millennia to naturally replenish. To Yuki, it was clear, Isaac would sacrifice anything for ambition, and Elliot, despite his soft image in the original timeline, had silently gone along with everything. In Yuki's mind, they were already dead. But for now, he ignored them. His focus shifted to the light. Yuki stepped into the glowing pillar without hesitation. Inside, time and space twisted like waves of color. Magic flowed in surreal shapes, and in the center of it all was a rift, a gateway to the adjacent realms, the origin of all spirits. Through the rift, he entered a place that felt like a dream. A field of beautiful, glowing flowers stretched endlessly under a sky made of shimmering stardust. And in the middle of that surreal garden, she lay. A girl with long, silver-white hair like moonlight cascading around her. Her skin was pale and flawless, and her delicate features looked like they had been carved by the hands of the gods. Her body rested gracefully among the flowers, untouched, divine. Yuki's gaze slid downward before he quickly looked away and cleared his throat. "Damn, that's nope, not staring." He snapped his fingers and conjured a soft coat, laying it over her exposed body. Then he gently knelt beside her and brushed a fingertip against her cheek. "Time to wake up, sleepyhead." His voice was low and calming, like spring wind through blossoms. Her eyelids fluttered, and her long lashes parted. Eyes the color of deep ocean blue slowly opened. She blinked a few times, her gaze meeting his own deep ocean blue eyes, full of confusion and innocent wonder. "You are," she whispered. Yuki smiled. "I'm Rin Yuki. I've come to take you home, Rain, Mioni." That warm grin, playful but gentle, was impossible to resist. Even a spirit like her, untouched by human emotion, felt a strange, fluttering warmth in her chest. "Mio," she repeated, puzzled. "That's your name." Name. She didn't know what a name was. But if he said it, it felt special. She didn't dislike it. Yuki stood and held out his hand. "Come on, let's go home." Mio stared at his outstretched hand, her expression blank. Then slowly, she reached up and placed her fingers in his. With a light pull, he helped her to her feet. Rustle. The coat slipped off her shoulders. And again, everything was revealed. The full curve of her chest, the smooth line of her waist, the subtle glow of her skin. She stood in the field, radiant and completely exposed. Yuki coughed again. "Mioni, let's get you dressed, yeah." He looked, but didn't not look. He was still a man, after all. Mio tilted her head at his reaction. She followed his gaze, then looked down at herself. She was perfectly comfortable like this, but something in his reaction made her think otherwise. "This, I have," she said softly. A glow rose around her as a halo of stars appeared behind her back. Her spirit energy surged. Petals of light spun around her, wrapping her in her spirit dress. When the light faded, she stood clothed in white. Her gown was elegant, flowing like clouds, embroidered with delicate silver flower patterns. 2 radiant flowers adorned her hair. The petals around her chest curled like blooming lotuses, barely covering her modesty. Behind her, the glowing halo pulsed softly, studded with 10 brilliant stars. She looked like a goddess, or maybe a bride, standing at the altar of the universe itself. But Yuki frowned. Nope, no way. The skirt was nearly see-through. The top half, well, let's just say it didn't leave much to the imagination. He wasn't about to let other men lay eyes on this. This view, exclusive property. He waved a hand, and the coat floated back up, wrapping tightly around her. "Sorry, Mioni, this outfit's banned outside." "Oh," she responded, not understanding, but not resisting either. She followed him as they walked through the shimmering space, stepping back into the world outside the light. It was her first time seeing this world. Everything around her was so different. Her eyes sparkled with awe. She pointed at Isaac and Elliot, still frozen mid-pose. What are those two doing? Isaac stood like a mad prophet, arms out, face twisted in triumph. Elliot looked like he was bracing for impact. They're not important, just some troublemakers, Yuki said casually. Then he flicked his fingers. Poof. Both men vanished into dust. Not even a trace was left behind. Time resumed. The wind returned. The clouds moved. The world breathed again. Yuki casually collected their fallen realizer devices and replenished the planet's stolen spiritual energy. Let's go, he said, gently taking Mio's hand. Back in London. The moment they appeared, Ellen and Karen turned toward the unfamiliar silver-haired girl beside Yuki. She was glowing, literally. Every instinct in both sisters went on high alert. Yuki, who's this? Ellen asked, eyeing Mio warily. This is Mio, a spirit. A spirit, Karen echoed. Yuki explained everything, the adjacent realms, the ritual, the disaster that Isaac and Elliot almost unleashed. Ellen and Karen tried to take it all in. Meanwhile, Mio stared at them, tilting her head curiously like a cat discovering something new. She was fascinated by the human world already. Ellen crossed her arms. How strong is a spirit, compared to a magician? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Mio didn't speak. Instead, she looked at Yuki. He chuckled and nodded. In an instant, he opened a private dimension for them. Rasil. Her voice was soft, but the space around them trembled. Behind her, a massive flower-shaped angel bloomed. Petals shimmered like glass, scattering across the battlefield. Vibrant gardens spread under their feet, but they were no paradise. The pollen here could kill, and anything it touched would cease to exist. Beautiful, and deadly, Ellen activated her battle gear, wings of light flaring as she drew her photon blade. She charged. Mio vanished. Reappearing a few feet away, she summoned a single flower bud. Boom! A laser burst from it. Ellen twisted midair, dodging it by inches. TCH. Her Rongomyniad wings unfolded. Twin beams of energy sliced toward Mio. But the spirit reappeared behind her in the blink of an eye. Ellen cursed. Cheater. The two clashed. Light and grace, speed and precision. Mio held back, using only her basic angel powers. Ellen's gear, built with heightier material, barely kept her on even ground. Eventually, clang. One final clash sent Ellen sliding back. She lost. Breathing hard, Ellen stared at Mio with newfound respect. So this was what a spirit was. Karen had been taking notes non-stop, her eyes glowing with scientific obsession. Pollen-based molecular annihilation, spatial dislocation, quantum folding reaction. Yuki smirked. Now they understood. He snapped his fingers. The dimension disappeared. Back in the streets of London, Ellen wiped her brow. Next time, she muttered, eyeing Mio, I'm winning. Mio tilted her head. Okay. She didn't sound convinced. 3 comments 0 vote. New members. 1 week after Mio's arrival. Apocalypse World, Minami Rika's home. In the quiet stillness of early morning, Rin Yuki gently pushed open the bedroom door and stepped out into the hallway. Behind him, both Miyamoto Mariko and Rei remained asleep, their breathing soft and steady under the covers. Only once he confirmed they were still resting did Yuki quietly shut the door behind him. When he entered the living room, the rest of the girls were already up. Near the window, Minami Rika was carefully polishing her sniper rifle with a clean cloth, every motion deliberate and practiced. For her, the weapon wasn't just gear, it was like a trusted partner, or, if one looked closely, something more intimate. Yuki knew that firsthand. Rika, alongside Seiko, was one of the group's main combatants. While Seiko excelled in close combat, Rika had the long-range angle covered. They were a deadly pair when clearing out zombies or gathering supplies. The moment Yuki entered, a high-pitched squeal came from the side. Yuki-kun, you're finally up. Before he could react, Shizuka launched herself at him like an overly affectionate retriever. He caught her with ease, steadying her against his chest as she giggled and hugged him tight. Honestly, Rika sighed from across the room. Shizuka, you could at least try to act your age. Okay, Shizuka replied in a sing-song tone, clearly ignoring every word. Rika groaned, rubbing her forehead. Totally hopeless. Even after becoming a full-grown woman in every sense, thanks to one very intense night with Yuki, her airheaded best friend hadn't changed one bit. I like her just the way she is, Yuki said with a grin, running his hand gently through Shizuka's long blonde hair. Hey, Shizuka purred happily, rubbing her cheek into his palm like a spoiled kitten. She then turned to Rika with a teasing smirk. See, Yuki-kun likes me this way. Yeah, Rika replied dryly. That's how he lured you into his harem so easily. She still remembered how stunned she'd been after reuniting with Shizuka, only to hear her sweet, ditzy friend had handed over her virginity to a man she had just met. At the time, it sounded ridiculous. That is, until Rika met Yuki herself. The man was too perfect. Impossibly attractive, a natural charmer. If incubi were real, he'd be the apex. She'd tried to resist. She lasted 3 days, and on the 4th, she gave in. Not because she was weak, but because fighting him felt futile. Especially in a dying world where happiness was rare. Rika's one to talk. You fell for him too. Shizuka huffed, slipping out of Yuki's arms and charging Rika with a playful growl. Wait, Shizuka, no, revenge tickles incoming. Ha ha, stop it, damn it, Shizu, ha ha ha. Rika's sniper rifle clattered to the ground as the two rolled across the floor in a tangle of giggles and limbs. From the nearby kitchen, Seiko and Takagi Yuriko exchanged amused glances while prepping breakfast. Yuki took a seat on the couch, eyes drifting over to Takagi Saya, who was hunched over a map spread out across the table. What's got you so focused? He asked. Without looking up, she adjusted her glasses. Seiko wants to clear the zombie-infested area around a US bank vault later. I'm calculating the best entry and exit routes. Yuki raised an eyebrow. Wait, we're hitting vaults in the US now. He understood that they'd already looted every vault in Japan, but crossing worlds for gold felt bold. Saya shrugged. It's the apocalypse. Leaving valuable resources behind is a waste. Seiko's words, not mine. Yuki opened his mouth to argue, then thought better of it. Yeah, hard to argue with apocalypse logic. Besides, gold still held value in most worlds. And Seiko, ever the noble warrior, hated being completely dependent on the chat group's support. Instead, she gathered gold through raids and handed it off to other members as repayment. Yuki's spatial powers made it possible, teleporting the heavy bullion easily across worlds. Still, his biggest contribution wasn't gold. It was the CRUNIT combat suits, one for every woman in the house. Suits that boosted agility, strength, and defense. Even Shizuka had one. She mostly wore it to chase stray cats. Soon, the rich aroma of Yuriko's cooking filled the room, cutting short the girls' planning session. By the time Rei and Mariko woke up and entered the dining area, breakfast was already over, only Shizuka and Rika remained, play wrestling on the floor in a lazy tangle of limbs and giggles. New York City, USA. What was once the symbol of global ambition now stood broken. Wall Street was a wasteland. Buildings blackened, skyscrapers hollowed out like skulls. Paper money fluttered through the air, worthless confetti in a dead economy. Yuki sat lounging atop the stone lion outside the Federal Reserve, one leg casually draped over the edge, watching the action unfold. Below him, Seiko moved like lightning. She had evolved. Her swordsmanship had reached a new peak, extreme shadow, blade art. Each swing of her katana cleaved space itself. Her slashes didn't just kill, they distorted reality. Trails of black light followed behind her like ribbons, each one slicing zombies with surgical grace. Her strikes reminded Yuki of that white-haired swordsman from a certain dimensional anime, effortless, brutal, clean. As her blade danced, dozens of undead fell in pieces. Then, ding, system alert. New chat group members. The Eternal Queen has joined. Heretic Goddess has joined. The group chat exploded within seconds. Yuki smirked, still watching Seiko carve through enemies. Waiju. Welcome, newcomers. Just so you know, this isn't a dream. If you're confused, check the pinned guide. Raiden. Finally, 2 new faces. Welcome to the chaos. Artemis. Welcome. Wait, another goddess. What's with the heretic part, though? Yuki. Greetings, newcomers. Saidenshi. Oh my, new members. And one's a queen and one's a goddess. That's a rare combo. Waiju. Whoa, even the emperor made an appearance. The newbies must be special. Saidenshi. I've been busy lately, but I couldn't resist popping in to greet them. 4 comments 0 vote. Athena. Campione world, somewhere among the ruins of old Europe. A girl with snow-white hair and pale, almost glowing skin sat on top of a stone coffin. Her face showed a mix of confusion and curiosity. On her head, she wore a knitted cap with 2 pairs of shapes that looked like cat ears. When she first heard the strange voice asking her to join a chat group, she froze in surprise. But her curiosity got the better of her, and she eventually accepted the invitation. Suddenly, a glowing screen appeared right in front of her, shocking her so badly that she summoned her scythe right away, thinking it was an enemy ambush. But nothing attacked her. The screen only showed a bunch of messages scrolling by. Slowly, she relaxed and took a closer look. As she studied the screen, she began to understand more about the chat group and the people inside it. After some time, she decided to say something and test the waters. Heretic Goddess, greetings. So, everyone here is from different worlds across the multiverse. Raiden. Oh, the newbie speaks. Yep, that's right, different worlds, different universes. Crazy, huh? Heretic Goddess. I see. But wouldn't that make this some sort of parallel world situation? Waiju. Parallel worlds, what do you mean? Saidenshi. I think it counts. Artemis. I don't think it's the same as parallel worlds. Athena. Goddess of the moon. Could you be Artemis? Artemis. Huh, I didn't even say my name yet. You already know me, I must be really popular in other worlds. Heretic Goddess. Well, of course. You're Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, nature, healing, and the moon. One of the 3 virgin goddesses, just like me and Hestia. How could I not recognize you? Saidenshi. Wait, 3 virgin goddesses. So that means, you're Athena. Athena. Indeed, whether I'm called Athena, Medusa, or Métis, they're all parts of me. Saidenshi. What? That doesn't make sense. Athena and Medusa being the same person. That's not how the myths go. Saidenshi was visibly shaken. In the myths she knew, Athena and Medusa were bitter enemies. How could they be one and the same? Artemis. Athena. Never heard of her. Athena. What? Athena, still seated on the coffin, blinked in confusion. The group chat suddenly became very awkward. Raiden. Okay, this is getting messy. Maybe Rin Yuki should explain it. Add nearly omnipotent. Waiju. Yeah. Our walking encyclopedia, come help us out. Add nearly omnipotent. Saidenshi. Add nearly omnipotent. Artemis. Add nearly omnipotent. Athena watched all the messages tagging someone called nearly omnipotent. Her curiosity grew. Who is this guy? Why are they all looking to him like he has the answers to everything? She stayed quiet and kept reading. Rin Yuki. Here. Alright, listen up, parallel worlds and the multiverse are not the same. Rin Yuki. Parallel worlds are like different branches of the same tree. They're part of the same system, just split paths. But the multiverse, that's way bigger. Each world is its own tree, its own rules, stories, gods, and realities. Like Artemis World, or yours, or Saidenshi's. After reading Yuki's explanation, Athena finally understood. Athena. Ah, so the Artemis in this chat and the Artemis I know from my world aren't the same person. Rin Yuki. Exactly, same names, but completely different beings. Just like you might be a goddess in one world, but something else entirely in another. Athena. Yes, I see that now. Athena took a moment to skim through the Greek mythology files Saidenshi had sent earlier. She noticed how different the stories were from the ones in her own world. Athena. It's strange, in Artemis World, even the Greek gods are mechanical machines. Artemis. But we won't stay that way forever. We're working on getting real bodies soon. Raiden A. Now that everything's cleared up, let's do some proper introductions. I'm Ball, or Raiden A. Waiju. I'm Dongfang Waiju. It's a pleasure to meet you, Lady Athena. Saidenshi. I'm Saidenshi. Meeting a real goddess is kinda amazing. Artemis. No need to reintroduce myself, right? Athena chuckled quietly at Artemis' playful tone, then turned back to the chat. There was still one member she hadn't figured out yet. The one with the name, nearly omnipotent. But now, she understood, his real name was Rin Yuki. Rin Yuki. Just call me Rin Yuki. Or Yuki, if you prefer. Athena. Understood. I'll remember it. She repeated the name softly to herself. Rin Yuki. I won't forget. Artemis. Hehe, Yuki's the only guy here, by the way. Athena. Only one male. That's unusual. Saidenshi. Right, sometimes it feels like this whole group is just Yuki's personal harem. Raiden. Saidenshi. Waiju. Blushing. Artemis. Well, I like Yuki, so if the rest of you don't get in my way. Raiden. Ahem. Artemis, don't try to keep him all to yourself. Waiju. I agree. Saidenshi. Same here. Athena. Athena quietly watched this exchange. She was starting to think she'd just walked into a den of man-hungry wolves. This group might be dangerous. Rin Yuki. Okay. Don't scare off the new member, please. Also, we have one more newcomer who hasn't said a word yet. He quickly changed the topic, pulling things back on track. Saidenshi. Oh yeah, newbie, you there, come say hi, at Eternal Queen. Raiden. At Eternal Queen. Waiju. At Eternal Queen. Athena. I shall try as well. At Eternal Queen. But no matter how many times they tagged her, this Eternal Queen didn't respond. It was like she hadn't even noticed the messages. Elsewhere, Rin Yuki sat atop a stone lion statue, deep in thought. Who is this Eternal Queen? The name was too vague. There were so many characters across different universes who went by that title. For example, Alarielle from Warhammer was called the Everqueen, and Marika from Elden Ring had the title, the Eternal. Without more information, even someone like Yuki couldn't guess who she really was. 3 comments 0 vote, Silent Queen, Crimson Blades. After it became clear that the newcomer known as Eternal Queen wasn't going to respond, the group eventually gave up trying to reach her and moved on. Before long, the conversation shifted to Athena's world. The goddess began to speak more openly about her reality, offering everyone a deeper look into how things worked in her universe. With a few exchanges, the others began to understand the roles of heretic gods and compiones in Athena's world. Raiden. Wow, Athena's world is way more complicated than I thought. The tension between gods and humans is so intense. Saidenshi. Especially since heretic gods always have to be careful around compiones. Waiju. That's true, Lady Athena, please be careful. Athena. Thank you for your concern. But even if a heretic god is killed, we don't really die. We return to the myth. Athena. Besides, once I reclaim the snake, I will restore my full divinity. At that point, no godslayer will be able to stand against me. Artemis. Oof, sounds like a pain, just try not to die before that, alright? You're kinda fragile right now. Raiden. Ahem, I'm sure Athena has her own ways of staying safe. Saidenshi. Even if heretic gods can be dangerous, Athena's one of us now. I don't want anything bad to happen to her. Rin Yuki. It's true that heretic gods can bring chaos to the human world. But I don't believe Athena has ever harmed people. Yuki spoke calmly, addressing Saidenshi's concern. He recalled how Athena, after breaking free from the myth, had focused only on retrieving the Gorgonean to restore her power. Unlike other heretic gods, like Verthragna or Melkart, who caused destruction without care for humans, Athena had been more composed and reserved. His words struck a chord deep inside Athena. She was still perched on the stone coffin, her delicate legs swaying slightly in the air. For the first time, a flicker of warmth touched her heart. She hadn't expected Rin Yuki to understand her so clearly. For a rare moment, her gaze softened. Athena. Indeed, as Rin Yuki says, I have no interest in interfering with the human world. There is no need for concern, Saidenshi. Saidenshi. That's a relief. Actually, I feel kinda silly now, lecturing a goddess like that, embarrassed. Athena. It is unnecessary to feel shame. We are all members of this group. And as the welcome message says, here, we are all the best of friends. Waiju. We're all friends here. Raiden. So now we're all on the same page. Saidenshi. Oh right, where's Seiko? Rin Yuki. She's in the middle of a fight. Too busy to check the chat. Waiju. That makes sense. Artemis. Wait, what? She's fighting again. Yuki. How do you even know that? Don't tell me, you're in her world again, aren't you? Why don't you ever come to mine? Raiden. So Seiko's battling again. Her swordsmanship must be unreal by now. Rin Yuki. Pretty impressive. Want to see? I'll stream it. Group notification. Rin Yuki has started a livestream. Join now. Raiden has joined the livestream. Artemis has joined the livestream. Athena has joined the livestream. Eternal Queen has joined the livestream. Raiden A. Oho, look who finally made a move. Our Silent Queen was watching all along. Saidenshi. Aha, so she was awake after all. Artemis. Caught you lurking, at Eternal Queen. Yuki noticed the silent newcomer join the livestream, but he didn't push. He just smiled to himself. It's natural, she's just cautious. She'll open up eventually. On the screen, Athena's eyes narrowed as she watched what unfolded in the other world. The battlefield was drenched in blood and smoke. At the center of it stood a young woman with long purple hair, dressed in sleek, glossy armor that clung tightly to her toned figure. Twin blades gleamed in her hands. In one motion, faster than thought, she unsheathed her sword, slashed, and returned it to its scabbard. Silver arcs of pure destruction cut through the horde of enemies. The dead, rotting, snarling, once human monsters, were turned into raining chunks of torn flesh and shattered bone. Each swing tore through buildings and crushed concrete streets like they were made of paper. Even the air howled from the force of her movements. Athena leaned forward slightly. This girl, she's like a mortal goddess of war. Her movements were so clean, so deadly, that even Athena, herself a divine being, felt a shiver. There were mortals out there in the multiverse who could rival gods. It was humbling. Behind her, two other women moved in formation. One was Rika, a cold-eyed beauty in futuristic tactical armor, holding a massive rifle with casual ease. The other was Shizuka, calm and businesslike, efficiently handling logistics and enemy cleanup. But Athena barely paid attention to them. Her gaze locked onto someone else. Lin Yue, sitting atop a massive stone lion, relaxed, his expression unreadable. And just like that, she couldn't take her eyes off him. He's beautiful, more radiant than any god of beauty she had ever seen. His aura wasn't divine, it was something else. But it drew her in all the same. A fluttery warmth bloomed in her chest, foreign, but impossible to ignore. Raiden. Wow, Seiko's gotten insanely strong. Her swordplay, even I don't think I could block it head-on. Saidenshi. Wah, I'm so jealous. When did she get that strong? Waiju. Looks like I need to train harder now. Serious. Athena. She surpasses most Campiones. That statement exploded in the chat. Coming from a goddess who'd faced god slayers herself, it meant everything. Athena. Praise from me is not given lightly. Saidenshi. Wait, does that mean Seiko could actually beat a Campione? Athena. In the right conditions, yes. While Campiones gain divine powers through slaying gods, her pure skill is enough to match their might. Everyone was stunned. Athena. However, why do these mortals look so withered? Saidenshi. Ah, those are the dead. In Seiko's world. Saidenshi explained the apocalypse, the virus, how society collapsed, and how humanity was now scattered survivors fighting against decay. Athena listened closely, clearly intrigued by a world without gods or divine order. Back in the stream, the streets were quiet now. The dead were gone. Seiko walked toward a large bank building, then, without a word, raised her blade. Boom. A single casual swing erased the structure, the force so great that the entire building vanished into a wall of dust and rubble. Only the underground vault remained intact. Gold was what they came for. Earlier, she had already flattened Wall Street and the area around it for nearly 50 kilometers. Shizuka, Yuriko, and Saya descended into the vault's depths, surrounded by black-clad shadow soldiers dragging crates of loot like obedient mules. Seiko, meanwhile, returned to Yuki's side. Blood still clung to her armor, but her expression changed instantly. In his presence, she became soft, calm, every bit the graceful Yamato Nadeshiko. She read through the chat, then addressed Athena directly. Seiko. Lady Athena, it's an honor. Your words humble me. Athena. Your strength is worthy of respect, mortal. Though, she pointed to the screen, must you destroy entire city blocks quite so enthusiastically? Seiko. Efficiency is everything. Just then, Eternal Queen, how quaint. The entire chat froze. After hours of silence, the one they had nearly forgotten, the Eternal Queen, had finally spoken. 4 comments 0 vote, the greater will, just over 10 minutes earlier. In a land cloaked in mist and encircled by an endless sea, there existed a continent known as the Lands Between. Here, life had not come from the stars or the sea, it had been forged in the crucible, a primal, swirling forge of creation. From it came creatures of all kinds, beasts with horns, tails, scales, wings, and fangs. These strange and varied traits were known as the blessings of the crucible, and through these blessings, countless ancient races were born. Among them, the ancient dragons, massive beings who ruled the skies with wings like thunderclouds, the fire giants, living mountains that worshipped the eternal flame, the ancestral followers, a tribal people who honored the spirits of their dead and lived in harmony with wild nature. But above them all, there was always one ruler. One throne. One divine law. One Lord, one God, only the chosen consort of a god could ascend to the title of Elden Lord. Long ago, the first to claim this title was Placidusax, the Dragon Lord. Ruler of the dragons, he had scales as hard as stone, commanded red lightning, and ruled from Farum Azula, a city that floated among the clouds. But the dragon's reign did not last. Their god disappeared, without warning or explanation, leaving the first Elden Lord to sleep alone in the ruins of his skybound empire, forever waiting for a god who would never return. With the dragon's age fading, other gods set their eyes on the throne. They began planting their own faiths, choosing champions, and guiding mortals to seize power on their behalf. Each sought a proxy, someone to act in their name. And then came a force from outside the world, a foreign god, known only as the Greater Will. It arrived by hurling a golden star to the lands between. That star struck the crucible, and from their union came the Erd Tree, a towering, glowing tree that would define an entire era. The Greater Will also sent its guardian, a beast of cosmic origin known as the Elden Beast. Because it could not act directly, the Greater Will sent messengers. The most famous were the Two Fingers, bizarre appendages that could not speak for themselves and had to use finger readers to communicate their divine will. And through these fingers, it chose its champion. Queen Marika. She stood tall and regal as she faced the Two Fingers. Though they could not speak, she felt the weight of their gaze. Their message, delivered through the trembling voice of an old finger reader, was clear: unify the world under the Golden Order. But Marika did not trust them. She couldn't. She was a Newman, and her people, the Newman, came from the very place the Greater Will had once destroyed. They were the lost children of the Eternal City. Once, the Eternal City had thrived beneath a star-filled sky. When the old gods faded, its people chose not to serve any new god. Instead, they attempted the impossible. They tried to forge a lord of their own. They created the Mimic Tear, an artificial being made to copy anything, even the divine. They forged weapons that could pierce the power of gods and armor that could resist the Two Fingers. Among these was the Fingerslayer blade, made to sever the Greater Will's influence. But such rebellion could not go unpunished. The Eternal City was cast into the earth. Its true sky was stripped away. In its place, an illusion of stars, a false night, made by desperate hands. That punishment still lingered in memory. The grudge had never died. And now, the Greater Will had chosen her, a child of the very city it had destroyed, to become its champion. Marika could hardly believe it. It felt like a cruel joke. We once tried to kill this god, and now it wants me to serve it. Standing before the twitching Two Fingers, Marika kept her expression composed. But inside, her thoughts were sharp and suspicious. She knew how powerful the Greater Will was. She also knew it did not act without purpose. Was this another trap, a deeper scheme, or something else? Then, without warning, another voice echoed, this time inside her mind. You have been invited to the Multiverse chat group. Will you accept? Her heart stopped. Another god, another trick. She said nothing aloud, but when no divine punishment followed, she cautiously responded in thought. Except, a moment later, a strange glowing screen appeared before her eyes. It hovered in the air, showing lines of text in a language she'd never seen, and yet somehow, she understood it perfectly. She tested it further. It was invisible to others. Only she could see it. And so, Queen Marika of the Lands Between began to read. She watched quietly, analyzing every line. The name, Multiverse, intrigued her. The chat members were clearly not from her world. Some were gods, some humans, some strange beings entirely. A live stream from another realm even showed a battle between a woman and a swarm of creatures. This was no illusion, no trap from the Greater Will. Only when she felt sure of it did she speak. Eternal Queen, my apologies. I believed this may have been a trick by the Greater Will. So I chose caution. Seiko. Understandable. Better to be safe than sorry. Saidenshi. Greater Will. That name sounds oppressive. Raiden. If you're this cautious, I'm guessing they're your enemy. Watching from his place on a ruined lion statue in another world, Lin Yue read her words carefully. A smirk touched his lips. So it's her, Marika, from Elden Ring. He immediately connected the dots. The tone, the name, the phrasing, it all lined up. The image of Marika shattering the Elden Ring came to mind, followed by her transformation into Radagon to try and undo it. Interesting. I wonder which version she is right now. Has Radagon emerged yet? He pictured her mid-conversation suddenly becoming a man. The thought almost made him laugh. Eternal Queen. Yes, you could call us enemies. Like Lady Athena or Lady Raiden, it is a god. Athena. Oh, so the greater will is your world's god. Raiden. For you to distrust them that deeply, they must have done something unforgivable. Eternal Queen. Indeed, they. Marika began to explain the long, grim history of the lands between. The rise of the Crucible, the destruction of the Eternal City, the fall of the dragons, and the chains placed around the Newman people. As she typed, the chat fell quiet. No one interrupted her, even Seiko stopped mid-slash to listen. Yuki's mind raced as he filled in the missing pieces. Lore fragments he had once studied now fell into place. So that's it, the Newman and the Eternal City are the same, and that's why she shattered the ring. It made sense now. The Greater Will had created Radagon, not as a natural part of Marika, but as a failsafe, a second persona loyal to the Golden Order. A divine puppet meant to keep her in line. It was a control mechanism. But it had failed, spectacularly. Everything, the shattering, the chaos, the breaking of the order, all traced back to one core truth. Marika had never truly been theirs. The Greater Will had chosen her not out of trust, but because the Newman had the potential to become dangerous. They made the Fingerslayer blade, a knife that could kill the two fingers. They forged weapons meant to slay the messengers of gods. Yuki leaned back, his eyes shining with interest. So that's why they feared her. And now, the woman born from a forgotten city beneath the earth had stepped into their group chat, carrying a vendetta older than gods. 3 comments 0 vote, Divine Games, Mortal Pieces. Waiju. A struggle for dominion. That's a bit beyond me, so I'll stay out of it. Raiden. Makes sense now. No wonder you're so cautious. Athena. Trying to kill a god and facing divine retribution, that's expected. But your world sounds incredible. The lands between, was it? A place where gods actually compete for power, that's no ordinary realm. Saidenshi. Yeah, but if gods are so powerful, why would they even want to rule over a bunch of mortals? Artemis. Right, in my world, the gods don't even clean up after themselves, let alone rule over people. Next to Yuki, Seiko gave a small nod. She, too, didn't fully understand. But she knew exactly who to ask. She turned to Yuki with a soft smile. I'm guessing you already know the answer, don't you? Since the livestream was still running, Yuki simply answered aloud. It's probably because of the Elden Ring. That quiet statement drew everyone's attention. He paused, letting the words sink in before continuing. Marika, still watching through the chat interface, found herself distracted by the sight of Yuki, his poise, the clarity of his voice, and the weight of knowledge in his gaze. There was a strange, radiant grace to him, neither divine nor mortal, but something balanced perfectly in between. She quickly shook the thought off and focused on his explanation. Eternal Queen, you're saying, the gods are all fighting over the lands between because of the Elden Ring? Rin Yuki. Exactly. Yuki nodded as he typed. The Elden Ring wasn't made by the Greater Will. It's older than that, much older. It existed back during the Age of the Dragons. He looked thoughtful for a moment before continuing. The best proof. The symbol of the Elden Ring is carved into the ruins of Farum Azula, the floating city of the ancient dragons. That means the ring predates the Greater Will's arrival. In the age of Placidus Sax, the Dragon Lord, the ring already existed, though in a different form. Raiden. So the Elden Ring came before the gods. Rin Yuki. Yes, the ring is fundamental. It's not just a symbol or a relic. It's the source of order in the lands between. In the Age of the Dragons, the ring's shape was more organic, like roots, branching and curving naturally. But under the Greater Will, it became strict, segmented, and geometric. Athena. So the ring changes based on who controls it. Rin Yuki. Exactly. Its shape reflects the order of the ruling god. Marika's golden eyes narrowed slightly. Everything he was saying made sense. Even though he was an outsider, he seemed to understand her world almost better than she did. Rin Yuki. The Elden Ring isn't just a throne, it's a system of control. Whoever becomes Elden Lord doesn't just rule the land, they rule order itself. Through that order, they influence the people. And through the people, their god receives strength. Artemis. Ah, I get it. The gods want faith and power. So they get someone else to rule and feed that power back to them. Seiko. Like priests or missionaries. Athena. Divine politics through mortal proxies. A clever, if manipulative, system. Saidenshi. So, Marika-san, Eternal Queen, you may call me that. Saidenshi. Thanks. So Marika-san, it sounds like you're stuck in a pretty tight spot. Raiden. The Greater will want something from you. What are you gonna do? Artemis. Maybe you should just say yes. Better than being punished. Waiju. But she has a grudge against the Greater will, right? What if it's a trap? Seiko. That wouldn't be surprising. Marika remained silent as she glanced toward the trembling two fingers nearby. They had begun twitching, erratic, violent. The finger reader, sweating and clearly nervous, took a step forward. Queen Marika, she said softly but urgently, what is your answer? Her voice trembled. The fingers grow impatient. Divine will does not wait. Marika's sharp eyes narrowed. She looked calm, but her mind was racing. They're forcing my hand. After only a heartbeat of silence, she spoke clearly. I will agree to cooperate, but I require assistance. The finger reader gasped in relief, visibly relaxing. That won't be a problem. The Greater Will has already arranged aid for you. But before leaving, the old woman hesitated. Then, in a much quieter voice, she added. However, Queen Marika, remember this. You are not the only one chosen. Others have also been called. Conflict is inevitable. With that ominous final message, the finger reader bowed and departed alongside the two fingers, leaving Marika in the golden light of the Erd tree, her mind uneasy. So I'm not the only piece on the board. She opened the chat and typed. Eternal Queen, the Greater will accepted my response. But they made it clear, I'm not the only candidate for Elden Lord. There will be conflict. The others read her message in silence. Saidenshi. Be careful, Marika-san. Waiju. Please don't trust them too easily. Raiden. If they made others the same offer, that means someone's going to come after you. Marika stared at the screen. Their concern wasn't strategic or political, it felt real. Genuine. She didn't expect that, after all she'd done, after the cold, brutal choices she'd made in her world, their concern struck something inside her. Something quiet, something long-buried. Meanwhile, in Yuki's world, the stream ended. Yuki returned to his room in the Day-Day Live universe, shutting down the last of the magical feeds. Before he could even breathe, a blur of silver and warmth tackled him. You're back. Mio, dressed in cozy loungewear, a loose white hoodie and short black shorts, latched onto him, rubbing her cheek against his with childlike affection. She didn't even hesitate before planting a soft kiss on his face. Yuki smiled, brushing her silver hair behind one ear. I'm home. Did you behave while I was gone? I did. Mio beamed. She hopped over to his desk and held out a book like a trophy. Look, I finished this all by myself. It was Romeo and Juliet. The edges were a little bent, probably from her flipping through it too fast. I think, you is my Romeo. Yuki blinked. He dies, you know. Mio froze. Why died? Huh. Yuki crossed his arms, teasing. Their love story ends with a misunderstanding, poison, and death. Are you saying you want us to go out like that? What? No. Panic overtook her. She jumped up, clutching the book with trembling hands. Wait. Then I'll just tear this stupid book up. Then she paused. No, that's not enough. A dangerous spark lit up in her golden eyes. I'll find whoever wrote this, and erase him. Let's go kill this Shakespeare guy. Yuki almost choked laughing, barely grabbing her wrist before the pure spirit could warp timespace and go after a man dead for over 400 years. Whoa there, it's fiction, Mio, just a story, you don't have to take it literally. He gave her a small smirk. Besides, what kind of tragedy could possibly stop me? Mio paused, then smiled brightly. You're right. She nodded with the serenity of someone who'd just decided no universe could deny her happiness. 3 comments 0 vote. The king descends. While Yuki was still lounging around with Mio, far beyond Earth, in the black silence between stars, a massive warship cruised toward the solar system like a moving fortress. At the center of this enormous battleship, seated on a throne raised high above his subordinates, was the most feared being in the known universe. The Emperor of Universe, King Deviluk, his full name, Gid Lucion Deviluk, the king of planet Deviluk, conqueror of countless worlds, master of 1,000 stars. He had already brought most of the galaxy under his rule. But recently, something unusual caught his attention. A report came in from his reconnaissance units, a simple message about a strange surge of energy from a little-known planet in the backwaters of the Milky Way. Earth. The energy spike was massive. So large, in fact, that it could have wiped out the entire planet if it had been released unchecked. When Gid read the report, his lips curled into a rare, excited smile. That kind of power, he muttered to himself. Something that strong couldn't be ignored. To the average ruler, it might have seemed dangerous. But to Gid, it sounded like fun. He wanted to meet the being who caused it. He longed for a fight. Not some meaningless skirmish with weaklings, but a true battle, a glorious clash of power that would let him go all out. With eyes burning in anticipation, Gid gave a single command. Set course for Earth. And so, his ship sped toward the solar system. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued as usual. People rushed to work, children laughed and played, couples strolled through city parks. Not one of them had any idea that something beyond comprehension was heading straight for them. Until 20 minutes later, a monstrous warship appeared in the sky over Tokyo. Its massive bulk blocked out the sun, casting long shadows over buildings and streets. People screamed, cars skidded to a halt. Crowds froze as panic spread like wildfire. Then, the sky lit up with a giant holographic screen. On it stood a man, muscular, sharp-eyed, with long, wild hair and a presence that seemed to crush the very air around him. Gid Lucien Develouk. His voice boomed like rolling thunder across the city. People of Earth, hear me, I am Gid Lucien Develouk, King of Planet Develouk and Supreme Ruler of the Universe. From this moment, your planet belongs to me. If you wish to negotiate, send me your representatives. Every screen on Earth, TVs, phones, digital billboards, suddenly showed his face. His voice echoed across every country, every language. It was no longer a question of if the world was under threat. It already was. Governments scrambled, emergency alerts rang, the UN went into a frenzy, trying to figure out who, or what, they were dealing with. Back at Lin Yue's place, Yuki had been relaxing on the couch with Mio and Ellen, flipping through channels, just waiting for their favorite anime to start. Then the screen glitched, and there he was, Gid, loud and arrogant, plastered across the screen like a final boss announcement. The reaction was instant. Oh, hell no, Ellen growled, already standing up. We waited all week for this episode. She stomped over to grab her battle armor, fire burning in her eyes. Cosmic Ultra was finally going to beat the octopus alien. She snapped, already locking her gauntlets in place. I'm with her, Mio added, fuming, her spirit dress forming around her with a flash of light. That jerk's gonna pay for interrupting our show. Thanks to Yuki, Mio's outfit had been slightly redesigned. Before, it had left a little too much skin exposed. But now, her spirit dress was sleek, elegant, and more practical, still beautiful, but far more battle-ready. Yuki sighed, dragging a hand through his hair. Do we really need to deal with some alien idiot right now? He muttered. He wasn't exactly shocked by Gid showing up. Ever since he figured out this world was a fusion of various dimensions, including to Love RU, he'd known it was only a matter of time before the universe started knocking on Earth's door. In fact, he had been planning to go into space soon anyway. Because if this really was the To Love RU universe, then that meant Safi, the stunning MILF wife of Gid Develouk, was out there too. And honestly, why settle for someone else's wife, when you could take her? Of course we need to fight him, Ellen shouted, snapping him out of his thoughts. He ruined our evening. This was supposed to be relaxing. Mio nodded fiercely. I don't care if he's a king or a god. He messed with the wrong anime fans. Their anger was pure, explosive, and totally unstoppable. Yuki gave in. All right, go crazy if you want. I'll be right behind you. Just then, another girl entered the room, Karen, Ellen's calm and analytical sister. She pushed her glasses up and frowned slightly. So, alien invasion, again. You don't seem surprised, Yuki said with a smirk. Karen rolled her eyes. Please, after Mio showed up, nothing surprises me anymore. Still, why Earth? She asked, looking at the TV screen thoughtfully. There are thousands of inhabited planets in this quadrant alone. I know exactly why, Yuki replied, pointing at Gid's image. When Mio was summoned, that energy spike probably set off alarms across the galaxy. His guys must have noticed. So he's here for her? Karen asked. Yuki nodded. He's a battle freak, and Mio's power is enough to shake the whole damn planet. He wants to test himself against her. Karen looked at her sister. Wow, he's just like you. Hey, Ellen snapped, clearly offended. I'm not some meathead alien emperor. Karen just smirked and turned to Yuki. What's the plan? We go watch, he said casually, stepping forward. See how Earth's leaders handle a universal tyrant. With a flick of his wrist, he opened a swirling portal filled with starlight, and the group stepped through. Seconds later, they arrived on a skyscraper rooftop in Tokyo. Above them, Gid's ship hovered like a god's fist, blotting out the sun. Sirens wailed in the distance. People were running, panicking. The city had plunged into chaos. Yuki looked up at the warship and smiled. Showtime. Elsewhere, in a Tokyo high school, two girls stood on the rooftop, looking up at the massive ship hanging in the sky. One had long, chestnut hair tied into neat twin braids. Her wide brown eyes were filled with worry. "Kurumi, that's a real alien ship, right?" she asked in a shaky voice. "Is Earth going to be conquered? Destroyed?" Beside her, a girl with long black hair, so dark it gleamed, stood with quiet grace. Her name was Kurumi. Her crimson eyes stared at the sky, calm and unshaken. A mysterious smile played on her lips. "Don't worry," she said softly. "If evil aliens are real, then so are heroes. I believe someone will come to stop them." Her voice carried such quiet confidence that her friend could only stare. The brunette girl, Sawa, let out a sigh, smiling in spite of herself. "Kurumi, even now, you still believe in that?" Kurumi giggled lightly, turning her head just enough to look at her friend. "That's thanks to you, Sawa." Her smile was warm, pure, the kind that could make you forget the world was ending. 3 comments 0 vote. Kurumi. The moment Gid Deviluk descended upon Earth, the world snapped into a panic. Across every continent, sirens screamed to life. Governments went into high alert. Jets roared across the skies. Warships repositioned in nearby waters, forming barriers as if that might stop a god. Every military force scrambled to deploy, unsure if they were preparing for war, or just their own execution. High above Tokyo, buzzing like nervous insects, dozens of reconnaissance drones circled the sky. None dared get too close to the enormous alien warship, but all tried to gather data, capture visuals, get a sense of what Earth was up against. But nothing escaped the Demon King's notice. Inside the ship, seated on a throne that looked like it belonged in a myth more than a warship, Gidlucion Deviluk sat with one leg casually draped over the armrest, a single elbow propped against the side, resting his chin on his knuckles. Power radiated off him like a second skin. That's when one of his subordinates approached. The alien's head was shaped like a boar's, but the rest of his body was disturbingly human. Muscular, dressed in stiff black armor, and clearly nervous. He bowed low, sweating as he spoke. Lord Deviluk, the humans are sending up drones. Reconnaissance. Shall we shoot them down?" For a moment, Gid didn't even look at him. When his gaze did shift, the weight of it hit the pig-headed subordinate like a hammer. The alien's knees buckled. "Do not waste my time with flies," Gid said coldly. "I didn't come here to swat bugs." The pressure in the air dropped like a guillotine. The Pygalion felt like he couldn't breathe. "Why yes, my lord. Apologies." He stumbled backward, practically falling over himself as he fled the throne room. Once outside, he let out a shuddering breath, then tried to pull himself together. "Fine," he muttered. He said not to waste his time. He didn't say we couldn't take care of it. He raised his hand and barked to the crew, "Activate point defense systems. Blast those drones out of the sky." A moment later, the warship's outer hull shimmered. Dozens of hidden turrets unfolded like steel flowers. Each one locked onto a drone with deadly precision. Then, beast, boom, in the blink of an eye, white-hot beams of light shot across the skies. One by one, every drone was reduced to rubble. Flaming chunks of wreckage spiraled toward the ground, leaving trails of smoke behind them. The sky above Tokyo turned into a battlefield. The light from the explosions reflected in the windows of skyscrapers. It looked like a celebration from hell. Watching from a nearby rooftop, Ellen clicked her tongue. "Wow, that didn't take long. Aliens with zero patience. Real classy." Karen crossed her arms, her expression hardening. "This just made it official. Earth's governments will see that as an attack." Yuki watched quietly, arms in his coat pockets. The broken pieces of the drones were falling like twisted comets, metal and fire raining down over Tokyo. Civilians screamed, running in every direction as the wreckage smashed into streets, buildings, vehicles. It was chaos, and then, one of the flaming chunks, larger than the rest, veered off. Spinning, falling, aimed straight at a school. On the rooftop of a Tokyo high school, Kurumi and Sawa stood frozen in place. The girls had only just come up here to get a better view of the sky, curious, nervous, but still hoping things wouldn't spiral out of control. Now, they were staring death in the face. A massive, burning piece of drone wreckage was plummeting toward them, big enough to crush the entire school in one hit. Kurumi, Sawa screamed, "Run!" But Kurumi didn't move. She stared at the falling debris, eyes wide, breath caught in her throat. "It's too late," she whispered. They had maybe 4 seconds left. If that. Sawa grabbed her hand. Kurumi squeezed back. Around them, students below were screaming. Teachers trying to herd people. But it wouldn't matter. The size of that thing, it would kill everyone within 100 feet. "Should we just close our eyes?" Kurumi asked quietly. "Yeah," Sawa answered with a weak laugh. "Maybe it'll hurt less." They stood hand in hand, eyes shut, bracing for the end. They waited. 1 second, 2, 3, but the impact never came. Instead, the screams below slowly quieted. And then, a voice. Calm, smooth, warm, like sunlight breaking through a thunderstorm. "You two planning to nap up here?" Kurumi's eyes fluttered open. And standing just a few steps away, was a man. Dark hair, slate blue jacket draped over a black t-shirt. Tall, relaxed, and effortlessly cool. His smile was casual, but something in his gaze, those deep, ocean blue eyes, made her heart skip. Sawa stared too, mouth slightly open. He looked unreal, like someone who had no business existing in this disaster. Kurumi blinked. Wait, you're alive," the man said with a small tilt of his head. "Shouldn't you be celebrating instead of fainting?" Sawa pointed upward. We're about to die." "Yeah, so," Kurumi blinked again. "Handsome stranger, are we dead?" "Dead, nah." He lifted one hand and pointed up. The girls followed his finger. Their eyes widened. The massive wreckage, the thing that should have killed them, was just floating there. Suspended in the air, not falling, not moving, as if time had stopped. "What?" Sawa whispered. Kurumi's lips parted. "That was you, wasn't it?" The man smiled gently. "Rin Yuki," he said. "And yeah, that was me." Then, with the slightest flick of his wrist, crack, the flaming wreckage twisted midair, folding in on itself like soft metal. It shrank down to a ball, then a pin, then nothing, disappearing completely. No explosion, no sound, just gone. Sawa stared in disbelief. What just, how did you?" Kurumi wasn't even trying to hide her amazement. She stepped forward, her eyes wide with awe. "I don't know how you did that," she said breathlessly, "but I do know one thing." She clenched her fists. "Yuki, you're the hero I've been waiting for. The one who'll defeat those evil aliens." Yuki laughed softly. "Oh, right, that phase. Kurumi's justice obsession, her wide-eyed belief in heroes and villains, black and white. It was cute, in a way. Pure. But he knew where that path once led. In another world, that same blind belief had shattered her. Manipulated by Mio, turned into a spirit, killing her best friend, Sawa, all because she thought it was the right thing. What followed had been years of darkness. A girl who smiled like spring had turned into a creature who bent time itself, stealing years and lives just to build the strength to kill the one who fooled her. He remembered her blood-soaked hands. He remembered her whisper. "I'm already beyond saving, but I won't stop." It had been tragic, and senseless, but this time, no, not on his watch. Yuki looked at her now, this version of Kurumi. Her braids swayed gently in the breeze. Her cheeks were still flushed from the near-death experience. She smiled, trembling slightly but still filled with light. Not this time. He wasn't going to let her fall into that abyss. Not to Mio, not to the world, not to fate. Read 40+ adv chapters on p@trian.com/lostmoon. To be continued.